So this dude just gets dropped into this totally blank white void with like a ton of other peeps. Classic setup for a wild journey, right? Then boom, this booming godlike voice just hits them with the news. They're being shipped off to some new world called Tesla, and they gotta whip up new bodies using this game-like menu system before 2 hours is up. Our main guy, Bishop, who's a total gaming pro, links back up with his MMORPG crew, the 9 Samurai, and their fearless leader Masa is all about recreating their game roles like champs. But Bishop's feeling super sketchy, thinking that this whole real-world scenario needs a flexible build to handle whatever craziness comes their way. His gut feeling only gets stronger when Masa drops this really specific, unexplained instruction for their reincarnation spot, and the whole squad just goes with it, like it's no big deal. Realizing something's way off, Bishop trusts his instincts, makes a last-second break from his pals, and decides to reincarnate solo, waking up all alone in a wacko forest ready to kick off his journey in this new and definitely risky world. Adventure time kicks off with the main dude wandering through this rad fantasy world, but then a wild swirling light vortex shows up from this massive white pillar, totally stopping him in his tracks. He can't believe his eyes, trying to wrap his head around what he's looking at. As the vortex collapses into this solid, almost cloth-like white pillar, he lets out a shocked gasp. Out of nowhere, a cute, winged girl with long blonde locks pops up in front of him, greeting him with a bubbly, "What's up?" The boy is just standing there, completely mind-blown before he lets out this crazy scream and manages to stutter out a hello. The fairy introduces herself as Zerat, but says everyone calls her Rise. This totally surreal moment hits the boy like a ton of bricks, proving for him that he's legit in another world. He explains he's now in this sword and magic gig called Tesla, a place he got yanked to without any say in the matter. His mind flashes back to when he first arrived standing in this huge empty white void, a super trippy space going on forever. He wasn't alone though. He was surrounded by loads of other folks all just standing there, looking blankly confused. The calm didn't last long. As panic screams broke out, people freaking out and demanding to know what was going down. Totally overwhelmed. The boy, RMC, takes a deep breath, finding comfort in knowing he wasn't the only one stuck in this mess. But when he tried to move, he freaked out when he realized his whole body neck down was totally frozen. Just as the panic peaked, this booming voice calls out, "Hear me," a command that didn't just echo in their ears, but hit them right in their brains. A massive bearded dude looking like a Greek god appears, telling them they're off to Tesla to complete a mission. MC is just staring, wondering if he's really looking at a legit god. The voice goes on saying they each have a mission to nail. The god dude says they should be seeing a window now. As if on cue, a see-through game-like menu pops up in the air for the MC, showing a 2-hour countdown and 4 main options: avatar, ability item, and reincarnation, after telling them to check their surroundings and that they could do whatever the paralysis suddenly disappears. The MC can finally move again, feeling a wave of relief. He looks up where the god had been, but that giant dude vanished without a trace, leaving the MC to think about the cryptic stuff he just heard. The crowd is mostly quiet and confused, but one confident dude speaks up, suggesting it might be smart to start introducing themselves. The MC recognizes that voice as his buddy Masa, and soon everyone in the crowd is calling out names like Tanapon and Masa-san. A small crew quickly forms, made up of friends from an online game called Lester. They go through a roll call naming off canon, the chubby dude Woda and the old man Elfman, which leads to a hilarious argument when Woda insists his name is the much fancier Rick in Love, claiming he's tired of his friends changing his nickname. Masa, being the obvious leader, shuts down the silly arguing, reminding them they're on a timer. He points to the floating window everyone can see, showing the timer counting down from 2 hours, explaining that's their deadline. Masa figures out what's going on pretty quick, saying the 4 options on the screen: avatar, ability item, and reincarnation mean they gotta make their new characters before the time runs out. He rallies his squad, the 9 Samurai, suggesting they stick together in this new world, just like they did in the super popular MMORPG Leicester, where they were ranked high. While they make plans, Canon, a girl with pigtails, mentions something feels off about the whole deal, which the MC totally vibes with. As he checks out the crowd, he notices that the hundreds of other summoned folks are totally chill, just looking at their menus and chatting about their options without an ounce of fear or suspicion. The MC feels this strange vibe of something being not quite right. It was like a character creation screen from a video game showing stats like strength, dexterity, and intelligence, plus a bunch of skills to snag with a pool of 100 points. He noticed that leveling up needed 5 points to jump from level 1 to level 2, and those points would roll over to the next level. The skill descriptions were super vague, leaving him scratching his head about whether skills like spear shot or axe attack needed certain character builds or specific weapon chops to work properly. Masa gathered the 9 Samurai, laying out his theory that to be a dope warrior, you needed a mix of skills, not just swords, but spears, axes, and martial arts. He was hinting that being too specialized could totally backfire. While chilling, the main character started eavesdropping on nearby squads and made a wild discovery. even though everyone was from all over American, French, Chinese, and Japanese. He understood every single word they were throwing around. He figured this universal translator was a gift from the god. Tanapon was rambling about party setups, but the MC got that. The basic idea was solid. Folks were teaming up for safety. Masa kept dropping the plan, telling everyone to build a specialized character according to their MMORPG roles. You know, tank healer, damage dealer, to create a balanced squad and not waste any points. He assigned roles. He was going to be the tank, Bishop would be the healer, and the others would cover support and attack roles. As the crew got hyped planning their avatars, Cannon decided to roll as an elf because it looked cool, but the MC jumped in, saying he had something super important to say. He totally disagreed with Masa's plan, saying that building a hyper-specialized character was a bad move. He hit him with a crucial question. What if Masa the tank couldn't hold a monster's attention and it slipped past to smack the weak rearguard? The MC argued that unlike in a game, this world probably had no respawn system, making unexpected stuff way deadlier. A specialized crew, he insisted, would be too stiff to adapt, so he decided he was going to make an all-purpose character. Masa was clearly not okay with this disagreement, but the MC stood his ground. He knew in the game that all-purpose builds often got called weak, like landmine characters, but surviving was his main goal here. He wasn't trying to be some hero or save the world. He got to work on his character. A 15-year-old male, half-angel cause his fam back home, ran a shrine giving him skills in rituals and martial arts. His ability list was packed and varied with points spread evenly across divine power, spear skills, shield skills, and even non-combat stuff like cooking and super sense, all adding up to exactly 100 points. As the timer ticked down, the MC saw other people start disappearing in flashes of white light, their reincarnations kicking off. Just when his group was about to make their final choices, Masa gave one last whack instruction. When the reincarnation destination menu popped up, they all had to choose Tranquist Castle. The MC was shook. No one had dropped any info about destinations, so how did Masa know the right one to pick? That's when it hit him like a ton of bricks. He looked at his friends' faces and saw no shock, no questions, just chill acceptance. He figured they were all just following Masa's orders without a second thought, like they were under some spell. The weird vibe he caught earlier became a terrifying certainty. Everyone here was being played. With under 3 minutes left, he started scrolling through his ability list, searching for an out. He remembered the god mentioning a blessing, and found a skill called Good Luck Fate from Heaven. In a risky move, he switched out his Devotion Roman 3 skill for it. His guildmates shouted, asking what he was doing as he fumbled with the menu. Turning to them, he told Masa he was sorry, but couldn't roll with them, and had to trust his gut. Masa yelled for him to hold up, but it was too late. The MC hit reincarnation and got swallowed by light. A system message flickered in his view. A new reincarnation has been identified. The system logged his unique move, confirming he broke free from mind control and giving him a special bonus, along with building items. Back in that blank white room, the god figure watched where the lone rebel had vanished, a slight amused smile creeping on his lips as he thought, this should be entertaining. The MC's consciousness came back with a gasp. He was lying on the soft ground of a dense forest, not the village the system message promised. He looked down and saw he was rocking the wizard set he'd picked from the item menu. This wasn't a dream. It was freakishly real. Pushing himself up, he navigated through the thick brush until he popped out onto a cliffside view. Laid out before him was a stunning panorama of mountains and valleys with this giant walled city chilling in the distance. A determined grin crept across his face as he checked out the view, realizing his adventure in the world of Tesla was just starting. Huge mountains and valleys spread out with a dope walled city chilling in the background. He smirked, taking in the epic sight, realizing that his adventure in the world of Tesla was just kicking off. The MC's fresh start kicks off at the entrance of this chill village, decked out with a basic wooden fence. Ready for the ride of his life, he creeps in, his steps the only noise in the stillness. Super glad to see no guards or watchtowers, he sneaks into the village, feeling a wave of chill vibes wash over him as he leans on the gatepost. Catching his breath, his eyes pop as he soaks in the scene, a lively town center straight out of a medieval movie, with wooden buildings' walls made of wattle, and covered wagons jammed in the streets. He checks out the locals and feels a sigh of relief, knowing they're just regular humans. He won't stick out like a sore thumb. He takes a sec, realizing if he stares too much, he'll look like a total noob. But his effort to play it cool crashes when he spots a girl rocking some major animal ears, a legit beast human, which shocks him. After a quick mental pep talk to chill out, he sidles up to a kindly dude and asks about magic books, a question that thankfully doesn't get him any weird stares. The dude grins and points him towards the local general store, confirming for the MC that he can actually chat. Plus, magic is a real thing here. Major win. Back in the White Void, he had seen magic books for a super low SB cost, which means they weren't going to be super rare or expensive. He pumps his fist, feeling the first little victory, and heads out to get the lowdown on the local cash flow with the starter cash he got, predicting they wouldn't be super rare or valuable. He clenched his fist, securing his first little victory, and set off to check out the local currency system with the starter cash he received. When he rolls into the store, he's hit with a huge selection of stuff, from dried herbs to fresh fruits, making him say, "Whoa," at how much they're packing. The shopkeeper, a big dude with a thick beard, welcomes him. And the MC, now calling himself Rook, asks if he's got any magic books for sale. The shopkeeper nods, pulling out a small stack of tomes from a shelf. He shows off the only books in stock, 1 for everyday magic, and 3 for elemental ball-type magic, saying that's all a small village has got. Rook, who can read the unfamiliar writing like a pro, figures the ball-type magic is probably for getting in some hits, and spots 2 of the tomes labeled Water Ball and Fireball. As his hand hovers above the 3rd book, a light magic tome, a crazy surge of energy zaps between his fingers and the cover, making him freeze up with a strangled gasp. The shopkeeper, not even fazed, seems kinda impressed, saying that reaction shows a rare and high affinity for light magic. When Rook asks about the price, the shopkeeper tells him it's 2 gold coins, way more than he's ready to spend, while the other books are just 2 silver coins each. He's in a bit of a jam. He can't drop the cash on the book he vibes with, and asking about the exchange rates would make him look suspicious. Thinking fast, Rook decides to play it cool. The shopkeeper snaps his fingers, guessing that even with Rook's magic gear, acting clueless about cash by asking for exchange rates was totally sketchy. Thinking on his feet, Rook just decides to play it cool. The shopkeeper snaps his fingers, guessing that even though Rook's dressed like a magician, he's never actually cast magic before. Instead of denying it, Rook fidgets and stutters, pretending to be this awkward rookie trying to get into character. The shopkeeper, finding it hilarious, throws him a deal. If Rook grabs the cheaper lantern magic book for 2 silver coins, he'll throw in a free starter lesson on magic. Rook jumps at the chance, adds a knife and a towel to his stash, then asks for change from 1 gold coin. The shopkeeper's like, "Sure thing." So just like that, the deal is done, scoring Rook not only his first spell, but the deets on local prices and cash exchange he really needed. Stepping out of the store, Rook thinks about all the info he's bagged. He can talk. Magic is totally real, and he cracked the economy code. Next up, he's headed to this massive, cool building that serves as the local Adventurers Guild. He waltzes in, all nervous, feeling like a fish out of water, and finds the inside as fancy as a bank with a receptionist at a front desk. A friendly guild gal named Catalina gives him a warm welcome, and he stumbles over his request to sign up as an adventurer. She slides a wooden application board his way, offering to help fill it out if he can't read or write. Rook thinks to himself that paper must be a big deal here. He grabs the quill, and thinking it's best to keep his backstory on the down low, introduces himself as Rook, saying he's 15 and his skills are light magic and spear wielding. Catalina then gives him the lowdown on the guild's rules and ranking system, which ranges from F to SSS. She lays it out that his F-rank guild card is only good in this village, meaning he's stuck here until he levels up. With the formalities sorted, she hands him his new wooden guild card, explaining it'll get upgraded to bronze once he hits E rank. Eager to kick things off, Rook asks if there are any quests he can jump on right away. Catalina, seeing right through his hype, suggests he tackle the Beginner Dungeon South, a chill 5-level maze that local adventurers have wiped out. She adds that it's known to drop some good loot for first-timers, making it the perfect kickstart. There's this Beginner Dungeon down south. It's a chill 5-level maze that all the local adventurers have totally already wrecked. She mentions it's got a chance to drop some dope gear for first-timers, making it a lit starting spot. Before taking off, Rook thinks about locking down a place to crash. He finds this super chill forest lodge and meets an adorable innkeeper with cute dog ears. He's momentarily blown away, but somehow scores a room for 3 nights, trying not to gawk as her ears twitch while she figures out 6 silver coins. He coughs up the cash, throwing together a lame excuse about sniffing dinner to justify his hangout, and she promises to hit him up when it's ready, her fluffy tail wagging madly as she bounces away, a sight that totally captivates him. He heads up to his pad on the 2nd floor, a small dark cave with shuttered windows. He notes the no glass situation, another sign that this place is totally behind the times. The door creaks as he steps into the tiny room, which has little more than a bed made of hay. He tells himself not to be picky. For a low-tier adventurer, having a spot to crash is all that matters. He flops onto the bed, totally wiped out. In just one day, he's been summoned to a new world, got a fresh body reincarnated, and figured out the vibes of a new society, all while trying not to raise eyebrows. He lies there wondering if his buds from Lestridge are also taking their first steps in this world, before sighing at how mentally draining it all is. He kinda regrets not spilling his suspicions to his friends, but brushes it off, knowing it's way too late now. He pulls up his ability screen to strategize his next move, deciding that hunting for allies is too tricky for now. His biggest need is to figure out magic. It hits him hard. As a healer who can't heal, learning any magic is a top priority. He pulls out the lantern spellbook he snagged for 2 silver coins. He opens the book thinking reading it is all he needs to do, but is met with a page of curly, unreadable runes. He flips through the pages in a panic, realizing he can't comprehend a single word. Just when despair starts creeping in, thinking his adventure might be burned out before it even starts, the book in his hands goes up in flames. He yelps in shock, but the fire feels oddly chill and the book turns to ash that disappears without leaving a mark on him or the floor. He stares at his empty hands, confused, until an incantation pops into his mind. A light bulb goes off. He lifts his hand and says the words, "Light come forth, illuminate my path." A glowing orb of light appears in his palm. He did it. It's real magic. In a burst of joy, he shouts the fiery debut of the legendary sorcerer Rook. His celebration gets wrecked when the innkeeper yells up from the first floor, kindly asking the customer to keep it down since the walls are super thin, making Rook turn red with embarrassment. The next morning, he wakes up with a wicked headache, realizing it wasn't just a dream. His loud magic show turned him into an overnight sensation in the dining hall, where other patrons and adventurers toasted the legendary sorcerer Rook all night long. A bit cringe, but the forced hangout helped him gather a ton of info about the local dungeon. With a meal's worth of fruit in his bag, he heads out through the south gate, ready to kickstart his adventurer dream. He hits the dungeon entrance, a simple cave in the side of a rocky hill. It looks just like they said, but he feels a serious wave of unease. He's worried that what the tough locals call an easy dungeon might be hard mode for someone from a chill world. His worst fears get confirmed when he peeks inside and sees the path splits into glowing dark tunnels, a detail nobody mentioned. His heart's racing as he imagines being ambushed by monsters in the darkness or getting totally lost. The endless possibilities freeze him with fear. Then he feels a calm wash over him. He remembers the choice he made back in the White Void. He's not a hero and has zero desire to save the world. No rush into danger needed. With a chill smile, he turns his back on the spooky cave and strolls away, deciding to take his new life nice and slow, at his own pace. Once back at the general store, Rook sheepishly admits to the shopkeeper that he bailed on the dungeon because he felt some bad vibes at the first crossroads. The shopkeeper, far from roasting him, gives him props for his caution, saying that listening to your gut is a mark of a survivor. He tells Rook to hold tight while he gathers some gear that'll help in the dungeon, offering to drop some pointers on how to clear it too. Feeling pumped and geared up, Rook heads back to the dungeon entrance. He casts his lantern spell, lighting up the dark cave, and thinks about how his initial fear totally made him forget he had a light source. He decides to kick things off by checking out the path to the right, carefully marking the walls with charcoal to track his progress. Peeking around a sharp corner, he moves cautiously down the tunnel until it ends in a dead end. As a classic gamer, he instinctively searches the wall for secret passages, and his hand touches something gooey and alive. A huge slime-like creature pops off the wall and jumps at him, splatting him squarely in the chest before splattering harmlessly on the floor. Rook gapes at the puddle, confused by the super lame first combat encounter that was over in a flash. He sees a faint glow as the slime's wreck gets sucked into the dungeon floor, leaving behind a small glimmering magic stone. He picks it up, deciding to keep it as a memento of his first battle, and marks an X on his map to show the dead end. After checking out the other paths and finding them to be dead ends too, he heads down the center path, which leads to a stairway going down to the next level. He's vibing on how dungeons are super mysterious, just swallowing up monster bodies and spitting out items and magic stones. Gripping his wooden staff, he's feeling pretty pumped. The path's looking way wider, and the ceiling's all high, giving him mad room to dodge around. Then out of nowhere, he hears some gross noises echoing from the tunnel up ahead. A tiny green-skinned goblin bolts at him like it's in a marathon. The dude whips his staff up, remembering the shopkeeper's pro tip that all it takes is a solid smack for these weaklings. The goblin jumps for him, and Rook smoothly steps aside, saying, "My bad." Before smashing down on the goblin's head, the little guy goes down, and Rook pokes it just to be sure it's not getting back up. Thank goodness that was easy. He checks out the goblin's body, all green skin and big ears, and feels a little bad, but it's cool when the dungeon absorbs it, leaving him with another magic stone. As he grabs the stone, these sparkles of light shoot up from the ground and zoom into him. He's hit with this wild wave of power. Wait, what? He just leveled up. This discovery gets him all hyped. The thought of leveling up like in an RPG total game changer. He keeps exploring, taking out more slimes and goblins, getting better at combat and feeling more chill with each win. Eventually, he strolls into this big open spot that feels like a boss fight. There's a lone goblin just chilling, but this one's got a knife. Rook decides to play it smart and waits for the goblin to make a move. As the knife-wielding goblin lunges, Rook expertly kicks its arm, sending the blade off course. Then he swings his staff with all he's got, landing a clean hit that sends the goblin crashing down. He feels a twinge of guilt for taking a life, but wonders if it's something he'll eventually just deal with. As the boss's body fades away, it leaves behind a bigger magic stone. In the back of the chamber, a stone pedestal pops up, and on it, there's a single book. This has got to be the first clear reward. Without even touching it, the title, The Magic Book for Holy Light, pops into his head, which is kind of wild. He opens the book, and just like before, the text is all gibberish. Suddenly, it bursts into flames, and all the info just downloads into his brain. He just hit the jackpot. It's a healing spell. Back at the guild, he cashes in the magic stones he snagged, raking in a paltry 1 silver and 4 bronze coins. He asks Catalina if low-level adventurers can even survive on such chump change. She explains that, yeah, it's tough when teams have to split the loot, but solo adventurers can scrape by hunting monsters one-on-one. The MC then asks about gathering herbs, and she points him to the guild's resource center on the second floor. He's totally blown away to find a legit library packed with way more books and resources than he thought possible, given how scarce paper is here. He spends hours diving into the books, soaking up info about the world's politics, economy, races, monsters, and magic. He finds out the holy light spell he just snagged isn't even listed among the main magic elements. The intro book talks about some god-level magic used by ancient heroes and saints, and he's guessing his new spell fits right in there. The whole thing is confusing. Why would such a rare and powerful spell drop in a beginner dungeon? He figures it's got to be linked to his half-angel status. Feeling uneasy about his epic spell, he decides to keep it on the down low for now. That night at the bar, he chats about the dungeon reward with this seasoned adventurer, Hans. Hans spills that beginner dungeons always hand out a one-time reward based on the clearer's vibe. Nothing crazy, just a little luck boost for the noobs. When Hans shares that his own reward was a simple iron sword, the MC asks if that's the same one he's holding now. Hans bursts out laughing, saying he totally burned that sword ages ago. He explains that burning is slang for failing at gear upgrades, which have such a high failure rate that the item gets wrecked. Hans warns the MC that's not something a rookie should mess with. Curious, the MC orders Hans another ale to scoop up more intel, a tactic he's mastered during his dinner chats. A week rolls by in a chill routine, grabbing fruit in the morning, hitting the dungeon to crush goblin skulls, and spending afternoons in the resource center. During that time, he levels up and his guild card bumps up from wood to bronze. He also saves up enough cash to snag the light bulb spellbook. In the dungeon, he lets loose his new attack magic, shouting the spell as a ball of light blasts from his hand and explodes a monster's head in a gory display. The horrific sight freaks him out, making him wonder if he could ever use that kind of magic on a human. This hits him as the first big dilemma all adventurers face, the moral struggle of fighting and maybe killing other people. Hans tells him it's a line every adventurer has to figure out for themselves, warning him that second-guessing in a real fight will get him wiped out. The MC asks how Hans dealt with it, and the seasoned adventurer grimly recounts how he got backstabbed by allies over legendary treasures, a moment where it was all about kill or be killed. Even after that, he couldn't kick the thrill of treasure hunting. He advises the MC to take his sweet time and figure out what being an adventurer really means to him. The MC all intrigued. So like he asks about those super old relics and artifacts, Hans goes on about how they're these epic items made by gods or ancient peeps that can totally bring you fame, cash, and even world domination. He talks about legendary stuff like the Sword of Light named Lufnir, and this holy staff called Angel Bell, plus these wild places like Lucrea, a water city built on ancient ruins. For the MC, who's pretty much been gaming his whole life, knowing these things exist is like a total dream come true. He feels this fire light up inside him. It hits him. He wants to travel the world and have those crazy adventures he usually only experiences in games. His chill vibes get interrupted when there's this loud ruckus from the guild's main floor. A crew of adventurers barges in carrying a seriously hurt buddy. A girl is all freaked out, begging for potions or healing magic, yelling that if they don't hustle, their friend Dan is going to kick the bucket. MC Rook is faced with the realness of an adventurer's life, as this girl named Mel is desperately pleading for help for her injured party leader Dan. He steps up, telling her to chill and show him the wound. As he checks out the nasty bleeding gash, he realizes that bringing someone back from the dead isn't as easy as it is in video games, and even with his reincarnated self, he can't expect to have that kind of crazy power. Then this seasoned adventurer pushes through the crowd and says the wound is pretty bad, claiming that no potion in their village can fix an injury that's gone right through to his organs. Catalina, the guild's receptionist, throws in that the church's healer is too old to cast the heavy-duty magic now, and the guild doesn't stock any high-level potions for this rare type of injury. The adventurers start whispering, agreeing that there ain't no other magic healers in the village, basically signing a death wish for their buddy. Rook hesitates, thinking it over. Using his special holy light spell in front of everyone could totally call attention and bring him trouble. But the thought of just standing by while a dude might die when he could actually help is a weight he knows he'd regret forever. So he steps up and says he can do a little healing magic offering to try to save the guy. Mel, like super desperate, latches on to this tiny spark of hope. While Hans and Catalina are just staring in disbelief, Rook kneels beside the dying adventurer and focuses, visualizing the healing vibe and channeling all of his magic into the spell. Divine light, come out. Heal this dude, holy light. A brilliant sparkly light shoots from his hands, wrapping around the injured man. The light shines bright for a sec before fading, leaving the dude's chest all healed up and breathing nice and steady. Mel, totally stoked, asks if Dan's gonna be okay, and Rook grins, saying they made it just in time. The guild hall goes wild with cheers, and Rook gets swarmed by grateful adventurers. Hans is especially shook, realizing that Rook pulled off this advanced healing spell without even chanting, which seriously gives him the chills. Later, the squad celebrating at the bar. Dan, all healed up, raises his mug of ale, claiming it's the best he's ever had, and thanks Rook big time. Then the crew introduces themselves, the loud swordsman and leader Dan, the quiet bowman lackey, and the super energetic cat girl, Mel. Rook introduces himself as a 15-year-old magician, and they all raise their mugs for a round of cheers. Dan asks to meet Rook's party peeps to thank them too, and he's completely mind-blown when Rook explains he's a solo adventurer. Dan's confused, asking why a magician who's usually a support class would choose to ride solo in robes with just a cane. Lackey jumps in, saying Dan doesn't get why Rook would pick low defense gear and a weak weapon if he's flying solo. Mel pitches in, explaining that while high-level adventurers or court magicians might wear special robes with magical perks, it's super tough for a solo adventurer to make it through dressed like that. He adds that most folks would just see him as a cringy kid pretending to be some awesome sorcerer. Lackey points out that everyone in the guild is buzzing about Rook's specs, his skills, his solo status, and if he can join up. Dan, jumping on the chance flat out, asks Rook to join their crew. Mel's all about it, excited at the thought of having a healer. Rook, caught off guard by the sudden invite, asks for some time to think it over, and they're totally cool with that, letting him know they'll be bouncing with their employer the next day. The following morning, the sun's coming up over the village. Rook wakes up in his tiny room and heads down where the cheerful innkeeper greets him. He tells her he's heading out of the village and thanks her for the support. She assures him he's always welcome back, guessing his newfound fame is because of the big event yesterday. He strolls over to the guild hall for one last breakfast, joining Dan, Mel, and Lackey at their table. Dan cuts right to the chase, asking for his decision. Rook grins and accepts their offer, saying he's totally down to join their party. The crew goes wild, with Mel giving Dan a high five. Super pumped to have a healer, Rook explains his reasons. A solo healer's got limits, and he believes he can learn way more about the world by teaming up. They decide to chill for 10 minutes while Rook says his goodbyes. He heads over to the resource center to thank Catalina, who wishes him well, and learns all about the world by teaming up with a squad. They plan to meet in 10 minutes after Rook gives his farewells. He heads over to the resource center to thank Catalina, who wishes him luck. So he gives him a heads up about not being a total risk taker. Then he bumps into Grim, the merchant dude, and his sidekick Dats, who got the squad together for this escort gig. Grim's super grateful to Rook for saving Dan's skin and has mad hopes for him. Mel chimes in, letting Rook know that her fam has been tight with Grim for ages, and that's why he managed to hop on this mission so last minute. While they're getting ready to bounce, Hans yells out to him. He cracks a joke about Rook being an early bird and brushes off the help he gave as just chatting over free drinks. He tells Rook that it's basically a given for adventurers starting in this village to peace out on a journey eventually. Thanks to his tips, Rook's well on his way to becoming a bona fide adventurer. As they say their goodbyes, Hans grabs Rook's shoulder and drops one last cryptic line. "That spell you got watch when you whip it out." Rook stands at the gate thinking about the vet's words. Kinda want to turn back and ask him what's up, but then he shakes it off, reminding himself that main characters don't get all wishy-washy. He waves one last time and sprints to catch up with his crew, ready for the next chapter of his adventure to kick off. The escort mission starts up as the caravan of covered wagons rattles along this twisty dirt path, leaving the southern village in the dust. Rook glances back at the small village, feeling a bit down as he rides. Mel starts chatting, griping about how Lackey is super quiet and kinda standoffish. Rook tells her it doesn't bug him, but Mel really wishes Lackey would chill out and be friendlier, especially around their bosses. Lackey then suddenly orders a switch up in the watch rotation, his short tone making Mel even more annoyed. Dats, Grim's apprentice, tries to ease the vibe, saying Mel's social skills are a rare gem and that he's low-key jealous of Lackey's quiet vibe, which keeps him out of drama. Rook thinks it's cool how the trio's childhood bond lets them squabble like this, even while Mel keeps nagging Lackey from a distance. He switches gears, asking Dats why there are no real maps of this area, because it's been bugging him since he checked out the guild resource center. Dats lays it out that maps are major military secrets, so kings and lords keep them under lock and key. Mel jumps in with pride, saying that even though official maps are rare, her merchant fam has their own detailed ones made from info, snagged by merchants and adventurers, which is key for outsmarting competition. Curious Rook asks Dats and Mel if they've ever heard about Tranquis Castle or the Azol Empire, names that popped in his head from the guild's weird last instructions. Neither of them has a clue what he's talking about. Rook figures the castle must be super far away, maybe even on a whole different continent, which means he'll be free from running into his old guild buddies anytime soon. He silently hopes they're all right, wishing they've broken free from whatever mental stuff was messing with them, and that one day he can say sorry for leaving them. Meanwhile, in a totally different spot, a buzzing sound fills a dark void, and boom, a light portal appears. Rook's old guild buddies materialize, looking all dazed as they find themselves in this grand fancy hall surrounded by robed holy dudes. Masa, their leader, wonders where they are surrounded by peeps who look like priests, and they realize they've been summoned into some big building, maybe a church. An old dude with a crown shows up calling himself Goldaru Le Azal, the emperor of the Azal Empire, and says he's got a request for the summoned heroes. Yep, they've landed in the throne room of the Azal Empire, the exact place they were told to hit up. A high-ranking official breaks it down, saying their country's getting wrecked by some evil darkness, and according to an oracle, only the summoned heroes can save the day. The guild doesn't really have a choice but to jump into the savior role. As they're led to their rooms, Cannon feels a weird sense of insecurity and notices that one of the girls with them has pointy elf ears. Later, the Emperor chats with the official, asking if he could figure out who's got the holy name. The official tells him he couldn't. The Emperor wonders if they're just fakes, but the official confirms they have the names of the supposed heroes. The oracle, however, said 6 heroes would show up and only 5 made it. The official thinks that the missing hero must be the one with the holy name. The Emperor lets out a sigh, feeling like they'll have to rely on the holy state again. Back on the road, Rook is chilling by the campfire when Mel teases him for being wiped out after a long day of walking. He admits that keeping an eye on their back was more tiring than he thought, and he was pumped when Lackey took over for him. Mel brags about her own amazing senses. Her cat ears perked up, but then deflates as she realizes that as the party leader, Dan is probably the least reliable of them all. Dan shrugs off the fact they haven't seen any monsters, saying it's a total win, even though Rook feels a tiny twinge of disappointment, realizing he's still thinking of this world like it's a video game. Rook suddenly shoots out a question. If monsters don't usually leave the forest, how did Dan get hurt in the first place? Dan explains that even though it's rare, it can happen for monsters to roam, which is exactly why they need escorts. He then calls the squad to attention, announcing that their squad name is Wind Squad and they need to stay sharp. Just then, so there's this L-shaped beast that's like as big as a motorcycle chilling on a hill nearby. Dan tells everyone to hit the brakes and duck down. He tells Rook to hold tight while he, Lackey, and Mel jump in to deal with the creature, and Dan's all about leading the charge to stop it. The massive L-shaped monster comes rumbling toward them, and Dan gets ready with his shield. He totally blocks its charge, digging his heels into the dirt as the beast pushes against him. He shouts for Lackey and Mel to make their move. Lackey darts in and slices the sheep's hind leg tendons, while Mel jabs her spear right into its guts. With the creature all locked down, Dan finishes it off like a pro, and they're totally in sync. Rook is mind-blown by their teamwork, but freaks out when another Let pops up on the other side. That second monster is way too close for the crew to jump in and help. Rook's like, I gotta do something. So he gathers some magic in his core, pushes it into his hand, and lets loose a light bolt spell. The light blast smacks into the charging L-shaped creature, sending it flying with a bang. His friends are just standing there in total shock, staring at Rook's epic power. Rook's still trying to process what just went down. Mel goes off saying it was totally insane, especially since light magic is usually seen as the weakest. Rook plays it chill, saying there's a trick to it. Mel's all curious and insists she's going to squeeze the secret from him when they hit the city. Meanwhile, Rook's deep in thought about what made his spell so strong. Like, did his will work? Or is it just because he's part angel? His thoughts get interrupted by the gnarly job of gutting the L-shaped beast, since every bit can be sold. Dan's in there elbow deep in guts while Mel nearby's lost her lunch. Lackey's off being on the lookout, so Mel's whining that if she helps with the guts, they'll be short a guard. Such a lame excuse since she hates dealing with nasty stuff. After the fight, Mel's all over Dan, checking him for injuries. Like it's no big deal, showing how much she really cares about her squad, even though she talks tough. The rest of the trip is super chill, and they roll into Lanford, a big town, just before sunset. Rook's jaw drops at how massive the city is with its huge buildings and paved roads. Such a huge change from the tiny southern village he's used to. Mel's totally hyped, pointing out all the cool stuff, and Rook has to admit the city is indeed huge and gorgeous. After dropping off the cargo, Dan wraps up the mission with Grim the merchant, who's like thanks a ton, and pays them for the escort and the monster parts. They decide to hit up the guild to tell them about their success and the weird double appearance of the L-sheep. As they stroll up to the Lanford Adventurers Guild, Rook's surprised it looks exactly like the one from his village. Mel tells him the design's on purpose, so wandering adventurers can spot the guild in any city. The inside's got the same vibe too, though stuff like wall colors and the worker uniforms change, so it doesn't get confusing. The guild receptionist gives them the green light on their mission and hands them a bounty of 2 gold coins for taking down the D-rank Lep. Lackey explains that the local lord dishes out bounties to encourage adventurers to handle pesky monsters, since those jobs would usually go to the overworked knights or guards. With business done, they head to their inn, but not before checking out the buzzing night market. Rook's totally intrigued by all the food, fresh stuff, and even dungeon items up for grabs. Lackey warns him that most of that stuff is cheap junk. Vendors love to hype up trash as though it's some rare treasure. While browsing a stall, Rook spots a blue magic book. He's stunned because those are supposed to be super rare. The name, the magic book for Purify, pops into his mind before he's even looked at the cover. Feels all too familiar from his holy light tome. Trying to keep it together, he asks the vendor how much. The vendor goes into full sales mode, saying it's a high-level book from a dungeon in a neighboring country, and he's only charging 100 gold coins. Rook knows he's broke. But before he can peace out, Mel jumps in. She's like, $100 nah. these are just scraps from a dungeon and offers him 3 silver coins for it all. A wild negotiation follows with Mel skillfully pointing out all the flaws in the vendor's stuff, like the scrolls torn, the knife's totally useless, and the rocks are just rocks. The vendor realizes he's been busted, dramatically throws his hands up, and agrees to sell everything for 1 gold coin, calling her a thief. As they walk away with their score, Mel explains how these drop shops are a thing, selling junk at ridiculous prices. Rook wants to spill that the magic book is legit, but bites his tongue. Mel, being all clever, admits she knew the original price was way lower and aimed for a crazy deal. This makes Rook wonder if she somehow knows how valuable that blue book really is. Back at the inn, Rook is totally wiped out from the day's craziness and just flops into bed right after dinner with the Purify spellbook sitting on his nightstand. The next morning, he wakes up late and finds Lackey already in the common room. They share a moment, peddling trash at outrageous prices. Rook wants to spill that the magic book is legit, but keeps it to himself. But Mel ain't fooled. She plays it smart and admits she knew it was way cheaper originally, and that she was hunting for an epic deal. This makes Rook wonder if she's somehow clued in on the blue book's real worth. Back at the inn, Rook is so wiped from the day's craziness that he just flops onto his bed right after dinner, the Purify spellbook chilling on his nightstand. The next morning, he wakes up super late and finds Lackey already hanging in the common room. They share a moment. After an awkward pause, Lackey gives Rook a shout-out for covering watch duty yesterday, saying it's a struggle to keep an eye on their backs. In return, Lackey volunteers to tackle the task of waking Dan up. Rook's kinda baffled by the offer until Lackey spills the tea that Dan is famous for being a total snoozer. As the rookie Rook agrees to take up the challenge, but he might regret it when Lackey thanks him, like he just dodged a bullet. Just then, a yawning Dan and a super peppy Mel show up. Mel throws out the idea of having a welcome bash for Rook and Dan, totally in laying out their game plan for the day, hit up the guild, fix their gear at the armory, and then party hard. For Rook, who's been flying solo up until now, the idea of vibing with new friends and going on epic quests is a total game changer. The morning after the welcome party, the Wind Squad rolls up at the guild. Mel bursting with energy nudges, Rook asking if he knows how to handle a spear, cause she's dying to test him in a sparring match. Rook totally dodges, humorously acting like he's no match for a real warrior. They scope out the request board, but it's crickets, which is pretty normal for the crack of dawn. Dan decides it's time to swing by the blacksmith to fix their gear up and snag Rook a proper weapon. On the way, Rook's curious about what kind of blacksmith they hit up. The crew's answers are hilariously off. Mel and Lackey rave about the smith's skills while Dan's over here complaining they don't have anything cool. Rook starts wondering if Dan's got some beef with a junky weapon. They finally roll up at Gildan's Smithery, this chill little shop tucked away in a back alley. Gildan the blacksmith gives them a warm hello and is introduced to Rook. Rook gets a weird vibe of deja vu when he sees Gildan. Gildan's hyped to learn Rook's a healer, which is a solid win for any team. The truth drops when Mel casually mentions that Gildan's Dan's pops, making Rook realize the Smithery's actually Dan's family crib. Gildan, hearing about his kid's close call with danger, grabs Dan and goes full-on dad mode, wanting a full scoop while scolding him for being reckless. Dan explains he downplayed the whole drama so his parents wouldn't freak out. Gildan, teary-eyed with gratitude, offers Rook any item from his shop for free as a thank you for having his back. Dan's all about encouraging Rook to take the offer, and Mel's super pumped to help him look at all the spears. Rook notices the gear here costs just as much as it did back in the southern village. Mel spots 2 spears and recommends one over the other because it's got a lighter spearhead that'll be easier for Rook to manage. Then she drops some knowledge about floaters, which are these mysterious items that are super light or have some dope abilities like absorbing hits. This clears up how Dan's shield was able to handle the Lep's charge. Apparently, it's a floater that lessens the impact. Mel's intuition kicks in, and she mentions her nose picked up something special about the knife Rook got at the night market, thinking it might have a unique effect. But she's sure it's not an artifact. Once Rook makes his pick, Gildan sharpens the spear for him. Then Rook pulls out the funky knife, asking Gildan to check it out. The blacksmith inspects the one-handed steel knife, noting its wacky shape, and says it's a solid weapon with a paralysis effect. He prices the rare find at 9 gold coins, leaving Rook and the crew shook. Rook, curious about how Gildan pulled that off, asks about how his judgment works. Gildan explains that for a skilled craftsman, the properties of an item in their zone just pop into their head when they touch it. This info hits Rook hard. It makes sense why nobody else could figure out his blue magic book. The ability to assess items is specific to their craft, and since blue magic is rare, no one could appraise it. He starts to wonder if his knack for judging the book's name is some kind of special power from being a quarter angel. Later that night, after a wild welcome bash where Dan goes hard and drinks like there's no tomorrow, Lackey spills the tea that Dan's fam runs the blacksmith gig, and since he's the oldest, he's on track to inherit it. Any other siblings gotta bounce from Langford to find their own hustle, which stresses Dan out big time. In a rare moment of drunken honesty, Dan spills his love for Langford and his dream to protect it as an adventurer, which explains why he's choosing this path instead of becoming a blacksmith. Listening to Dan's tale makes Rook think about his own situation back home where his fam had a shrine and a martial arts dojo. He was never as skilled as his older bro who was set to take over both spots. That feeling of not being enough led him to find comfort in the game Lester. He feels for Dan, thinking maybe Dan's real dream was to be a blacksmith after all. Later in his room, Rook decides to give the paralysis knife a whirl. Following Gildan's tips, he channels his magical energy like he does when casting spells and sends it into the blade. The knife gives off a soft purple glow. Yep, nailed it. He practices swinging the enchanted blade, realizing he's got to level up his game with channeling magic while fighting. Next up, he pulls out the blue magic book for the spell Purify. He thought it was all about undead stuff, but the info flooding his brain when he finally got it suggested it's way broader. He decides to test it on a grungy towel, and with the chant, the towel instantly becomes cleaner than when he grabbed it with the dirt peeling off like white dust. To his shock, he realizes the spell dug deep. He thought it was all about undead stuff, but the info flooding his brain when he finally got it suggested it's way broader. He decides to test it on a grungy towel, and with the chant, the towel instantly becomes cleaner than when he grabbed it with the dirt peeling off like white dust. To his shock, he realizes the spell dug deep. He grabbed a towel and cleaned up a spot on the bed sheets. With no other options, he hit the whole bed with the spell, draining a ton of his magic. But it paid off, and now the bed was squeaky clean, even the hay underneath. This sparked an idea in his head. After testing the spell on his bag to make sure he could keep it just to the surface, he cast Purify on himself. The magic wiped away all the grime from his body and clothes, leaving his hair smooth and his robes looking fresh out the store. He was jumping around like a total goof, hyped about his new magic shower, but his party vibes got interrupted when a cloud of white particles from his cleaning spell filled the room. A messy side effect he totally forgot about. While they were practicing their moves, Wind Squad ran into an L-rat. This big, aggressive rat. A thrown spear missed and the thing quickly darted towards Rook, but Rook stood firm, raised his spear calmly, and with one precise stab, he took down the charging rat like it was nothing. Dan was super impressed with Rook's spear skills, noting how Rook's talent meant they had a solid defender, even if things went sideways. Mel, on the other hand, couldn't resist roasting Rook for looking all smug about his easy win. The practice went on with Dan leading them through different combat drills and escape plans, something Rook recognized from his old life. But things got way too real when Dan went all out acting like a goblin's victim, making Mel tear up. After they wrapped up training, Rook dove into the gritty skill of monster dissection. Stoic Lackey just told him to keep the monster's anatomy in mind as he worked. When Rook's hands were covered in blood, Lackey offered to clean them, making a water droplet appear from thin air. Rook was shocked to find out Mel could do this everyday magic too, a skill she humbly said she picked up with a bit of practice. The squad settled into a groove. They practiced for 2 days and then hit a rest day for shopping and stocking up. At night, Rook wore himself out practicing magic and trying to figure out the limits of his Purify spell. His constant cleanliness didn't go unnoticed. One morning, Mel called him out, teasing that he's a neat freak, and demanded to know how he stays so spotless and smell-free with all the crazy training and messy dissections. Dan and Lackey apologized for Mel's silly rant, but she insisted it was totally valid from a cat human with a strong sense of smell complaining about the boy's stink. This whole exchange reminded Rook of his old buddy Cannon, who always said airheaded stuff that made everyone laugh. He found himself reminiscing about his old crew, thinking back to a dungeon run where their roles didn't stack up. Their tank Masa had a tough time keeping the fast wolves' attention, and they quickly overran the backline. Their archer Elfman wasn't some in-game prodigy, but because he had practiced archery back in their original world, proving that real-life skills totally beat the game abilities. The whole situation turned into chaos, just like Rook had warned them it could. He remembered Keenan trying to lift everyone's spirits after that epic fail. Her cheery vibe was such a contrast to the bleak reality they faced. Then he flashed back to the old guild being led into the castle after their summoning. A guide told them the setup was done, and they had to roll out right away. Can and Ever, the practical one, wanted to cash in their dungeon drops first, but they were told there was no time. In a rush, she sold their stuff to a merchant for 1 silver coin, knowing it was a total steal. Then they were carted off to Arl, a legendary hero's resting spot. They found out the hero's sword was stuck in the grave, and only a true hero could pull it out, scoring the original hero's power in the process. Back to the present, Dan got a new escort mission from the Straw Trading Company. He pulled the squad aside in a chill corner of the guild hall to go over the lowdown, making sure no one was eavesdropping. The gig was a 7-day round trip to a forest village in the east for a sweet reward of 10 gold coins. After weighing the good and bad, the squad decided to take the mission. Dan then looked at Rook, saying that as a Wind Squad member, he had a say too. Hearing them call him a stellar member of the squad made Rook all happy, and he pumped his fist to join them on the mission. The tale kicks off with Rook strutting down a mountain path buzzing with energy that felt kinda wild for an escort mission. Decked out in his fresh white healer's robes fluttering in the breeze, he held his staff with excitement, shouting he was ready for anything. The crew, including the sassy beastkin scout Mel, the armored warrior Dan, and their merchant bosses from the straw trading company Grim and Dats were heading to a forest village in the east. While Mel playfully teased Rook about his newbie-level hype and how eager he looked, she dropped some wisdom. Keeping a chill, steady pace is way more vital than just being pumped when you need to save energy for possible emergencies on a long escort. Grim, chilling in the cart, tossed in his 2 cents, feeling super relieved to have a dedicated healer on the team. Things have been getting pretty dicey around here, and they couldn't just rely on the church's crazy fees for magic help anymore. The original hero's power in the mix. Back in the now, Dan gets a new escort mission from the straw trading company. He gathers the crew in a quiet corner of the guild hall to go over the details, making sure no one's listening in. The request is a week-long round trip to a forest village to the east for a sweet reward of 10 gold coins. After weighing the pros and the cons, the crew decides to roll with it. Dan then turns to Rook, telling him that as part of Wind Squad, he's got a say in this too. Hearing them hype him up as a stellar member of the crew makes Rook stoked, and he jumps at the chance to join them on the mission. The story kicks off with Rook strutting down a mountain path with an energy that just feels too upbeat for a risky escort gig. Decked out in his fresh white healer's robes fluttering in the wind, he clutches his staff like he's ready to take on anything, shouting out to the party leader that he's totally set to go. The squad made up of the sassy beastkin scout Mel, the sword-swinging warrior Dan, and their merchant bosses from the straw trading company Grim and Dats is heading toward a forest village to the east. While Mel playfully bags on Rook for being all rookie hyped, she drops some sage advice. Keeping a steady, chill pace is way more important than being hyped when you gotta save energy for possible emergencies during a long haul. Grim, riding the cart, pipes up with some practical thoughts, feeling super relieved to have a dedicated healer on deck. The area is getting sketchy, and relying on the church's crazy fees for magical healing usually wrecks a merchant's cash flow, so Rook being around is like hitting the jackpot. The chill vibes about money and excitement get totally crushed when the MC's instincts kick in, catching some movement in the thick bushes by the road. Before they can even brace themselves, a squad of savage forest wolves charges out from the trees, teeth out and eyes locked on the draft horses like it's dinner time. Mel, being the pro, spots their pack strategy right away, yelling out warnings about how they're planning to trap their lunch. Instead of flipping out, the MC grabs the moment, hurling a light ball smack into the middle of the wolf squad. The spell blows up in a crazy flash, not meant to hurt, but to mess with the brains of those smart beasts and break their surround and attack plan, showing that this crew is totally ready for a numbers game. The blinding light creates a wild chance for Dan and the frontliners to switch it up, taking out the dazed wolves with swords and arrows before they can even blink. The fight wraps up just as quick as it started, proving how tight their training is. Then, when Dan spots a scratch on his arm, the MC just gives it a quick heal with a casual touch. Grim is watching this whole thing with wide-eyed business sense, realizing a wound like that usually costs a ton in potions or donations to the church. But here it's all fixed with a chill spell and a grin, while the crew quickly snags magic stones and parts from the wolf bodies to keep their bags light. The MC sees Mel conjuring clean water to freshen up, and it hits him like a light bulb. Pure magic-made water is super valuable enough to make a living from, especially with how useful it is for healing and farming. They keep rolling until sunset, camping out in the spooky remains of some ancient ruins. The MC and Dan nerd out over the stonework, impressed by the skills that totally crush what they can do today, hinting at some advanced civilization that ghosted out over 100 years ago, and it gets them wondering about the kind of people who once called this place home. The campfire vibe gets heavy as Dan talks about how monsters are shifting their territories. Wild boars, sheep, and now forest wolves are showing up in spots they don't usually hit, hinting that something big, magical, or ecological is pushing them away from their homes. The night drags on, and while the others catch some Z's, the MC stares up at the crazy beauty of the twin moons, a freaky reminder that he's far from home in this icy sky realm. He wonders if there's a bigger reason for his summoning, or if he's just another random speck in this vast universe, a deep thought train that only stops when the sun comes up and Mel hands him a hot cup of tea to chase off the morning chill. When the caravan finally rolls into the forest village later that day, the crew is totally shook to find the place has 0 defensive walls like an architectural welcome monsters. Considering the creatures they just battled through, when they hit up the local guild to report the wolf issue, they're met with the most annoying chill vibes. The guild receptionist and the locals are all convinced that an ancient fairy tale grants them divine protection, so they think they don't need walls at all. The party, especially Mel and Dan, can't hide their irritation at this fairy tale nonsense, roasting the peace-loving fools who think a story will protect them from a wolf pack. But since they gotta take a rest day before the next leg of the trip, they choose to let the locals stay lost in their fair tales. The MC decides to explore the village solo, grabbing a skewer from a street vendor and asking about this legendary story that makes everyone so chill. The old vendor spills that the fairy garden is to the north, a stunning flower field with a stone pillar in the center, but warns the MC about 2 hard rules for visitors. Don't mess with the flowers, and don't dirty the pillar. Super curious and definitely feeling the hype from the vendor's claim that it's worth 100 visits, the MC hikes over the hill and is totally speechless at the view. In the middle of the wild, there's this perfect vibrant circle of flowers that pops against the dark forest with a lone, moss-covered pillar standing guard in the center. The way the flowers stand out makes the MC realize it's not just nature but some kind of magical influence at play. Taking the no-touching rule to heart, to dodge any potential bad luck, the MC uses his magic to float through the air, gliding over the petals to make sure he doesn't crush even one stem as he makes his way to the pillar. Hovering in front of the ancient stone, he notices it's already got ages of grime on it, even though they were told to keep it clean. But just as he's about to brush it off, he realizes this isn't just some random stone, it's actually the fairy's gate. Standing before the legendary stone cylinder that dominates this floral paradise, MC Rook feels history weighing down on him, hitting him like a ton of bricks. This isn't just an old ruin, it's the infamous Gate of Fairies. He tries to use his mysterious judgment powers to make sense of the glowing arcane writing etched into the green-covered surface. This ain't just any old ruin, it's the legendary Fairy Gate. He tries to use his mysterious judgment powers to decode the glowing arcane symbols etched into the mossy walls. But for the first time, his cheat skills hit a major wall, just giving him nothing but total silence, making him realize this pillar is like an actual bridge between DS_332, vertical bar, the human world, and the realm of the Fae. Even though the vibe around him feels super heavy and has totally drained the nearby plants of their usual liveliness, Rook's need to be helpful kicks in harder. The human world and the realm of the Fae. Even though the vibes are heavy and seem to have zapped the area's magic feel, Rook's gotta help out even if it goes against his common sense. Peeping the centuries of dirt and moss hiding the fancy carvings, he thinks it's high time for some supernatural cleaning. So with a chipper yell of purify, he slaps his hand on the cold stone, channeling his mana, not as a key, but just like some sponge, convincing himself he's just sprucing up the joint instead of messing with a holy monument. The reaction instant and way over the top for what he had in mind. The pillar explodes with this blinding light, ancient runes lighting up like it's Showtime DS_335 vertical bar, making Rook jump back in panic as he figures out that he might have totally overdone it. His first thought is the noble plan of bolting out before anyone sees him playing with a national treasure. But as he tries to bounce the light shapes into a figure DS_336 vertical bar, freezing him in place with a polite, "Good afternoon." The bright glow dims, revealing a tiny floating girl with see-through wings and a frilly dress. She's like some fairy tale character introducing herself as Lisa Lode, with this big professional grin like she's clocking in for a shift. Rook still reeling from stumbling into the fairy dimension. The reaction is like instant and way more intense than he expected. The pillar bursts into blinding light, the ancient runes lighting up like crazy, clearly signaling system activation, instead of just a clean surface, making Rook flinch back in panic as he realizes he totally overdid it. His first instinct is to run before anyone catches him messing with a national treasure, but right before he can bail the light shapes into a figure, Rook's brain short-circuits at being called Mr. Pig, his face twisting in confusion and annoyance as he tries to confirm if he actually heard her right. But Lisa Lo doubles down, giving him an enthusiastic nod, DS_339 vertical bar, confirming that yeah, he's indeed a pig in her eyes. Before he can even think about the insult, or ask why some magical being is roasting him, Lysol abruptly says her time's up, waving a laid-back goodbye, as she turns into sparkles, leaving Rook standing solo in the flower field with zero answers, a bruised ego, and a fresh notification in his head. He's somehow learned the summon fairy spell. Later that night, back at his cozy inn-room, Rook sprawls on his bed, DS_340 vertical bar, looking like a starfish, as he keeps shouting summon fairy at the ceiling with absolutely zero luck. The spell that came so easy in the field just won't activate now, making him think he's missing something crucial. Maybe he needs a catalyst or a gift, or perhaps just the dignity he lost when he was called a pig. But since there's no manual for his new skills, DS_341 vertical bar, he decides to shelve the fairy mystery for now and catch some Z's. The harsh reality of this adventure life hits hard the next day. Although the straw trading company covers their travel DS_342 vertical bar, their downtime expenses in the village are on them, pushing the team to the local guild for some work. The guild hall is buzzing with nervous chatter, a creature introducing herself as Lisa Lo with a big professional smile, looking like she just clocked in for her shift. Rook, still freaking out from accidentally opening the fairy door, stammers out a hello just for the convo to take a hilariously weird turn when Lisa Lo locks eyes with him and cheerfully says, "Buddha-san is here." Rook's brain totally shorts out at being called Mr. Pig, his face twisting in confusion and a bit of offense as he tries to figure out if he heard her right. But Lisa Lo doubles down with a big nod, confirming that, yeah, he's definitely a pig in her eyes, before he can even start to process the roast or wonder why a magical being is calling him names Lysol out of nowhere. Deciding it's time to grind for some cash, the crew heads out to hunt, but they immediately crash into the headache of the village's safety. Since monsters supposedly avoid the area because of the fairy tales, they have to slog through the forest for 2 long hours just to find a single goblin to take down. The irony of this marathon just to fight something doesn't escape Lackey, who gripes about the whole thing. Even Rook thinks the effort is a total downer when they waste half a day. Over the next few days, they settle into a groove of lengthy hikes and short fights, with Rook using the chance to try out his paralysis knife on some local critters, slowly grinding enough experience to level up and snag the goddess's blessing. But the monotony starts to crack their spirits, with Lackey unusually expressing a desire to head back to land for DS_345 vertical bar, a thought that surprises Mel, who usually can't wait to bounce. But they all agree to stick it out a little longer for the sake of the contract. Their patience gets pushed to the limit. DS_346 vertical bar the next morning, when they agree to a last-minute escort quest for a gatherer named Hana, this old lady who seems to have all her breath saved up just for yelling at them. The request is a reaction to a sudden herb shortage. Looks like a starfish as he keeps shouting Summon Fairy at the ceiling with 0 results. The spell that seems so easy in the moment now won't activate, making him feel like he's definitely missing something important, maybe a catalyst in offering, or just the self-respect he lost after being called a pig. But without a user manual for his new powers, the escort mission quickly turns into a verbal wrecking ball. Mel gets chewed out for breathing too loudly. Lackey gets called an amateur for eyeballing the wrong bush, and Dan, the stoic leader, gets scolded like a toddler for almost cutting a root that needs to stay put. One by one, the seasoned adventurers crumble under the wrath of this fierce Grandma DS_348 vertical bar. Their chill time expenses in the village are on them, meaning the party has to hit up the local guild for some jobs. The guild hall is buzzing with nervous chatter about a possible war over to the west, and some shady uptick in monster activity between Langford and their current spot. Mel and Dan are going on about the potential hike in medicine prices and the dangers waiting down the road. Deciding to rack up some cash, the squad sets out to hunt, but they instantly hit a logistical brick wall with the village's safety. Because monsters are believed to steer clear of the area thanks to the fairy legends, the group has to slog through the forest for 2 excruciating hours just to run into a single goblin they can take out. The irony of seriously walking miles just to find something to fight isn't totally lost on Lackey, who's low-key whining about it. Even Rook is feeling the mood drop hard when they spend half a day trekking for just a few lame goblin kills. Over the next few days, they vibe into a groove of long hauls and quick brawls, with Rook taking the chance to mess around with his paralysis knife on the local critters, eventually leveling up enough to snag the goddess's blessing. But the boring grind starts to wear on the crew's spirits, with Lackey unusually saying she's down to bounce back to Lanford. This totally surprises Mel, who's usually the first one wanting to ditch, but they all agree to hang in there just a little longer for the contract's sake. Their patience gets pushed to the max. The next morning, when they sign up for a desperate escort gig for this gatherer named Hana, an old lady whose lung capacity is basically just for yelling at them, the request is a fallout from a sudden herb shortage that's got the trading guild freaking out. But Hana couldn't care less about politics, taking out her rage on Mel's loud footsteps, and Lackey not knowing the difference between a medicinal herb and a weed. The escort mission quickly turns into a roast session. Mel gets yelled at for breathing too loud. Lackey gets ragged on for ogling the wrong bush. And Dan, the stoic leader, gets scolded like a little kid for almost cutting a root that needs saving. One by one, the seasoned adventurers get totally wrecked mentally by the fierce grandma, hanging back to heal their bruised egos while Rook steps up to the plate. To everyone's surprise, Rook and Hana hit it off like besties. His natural plant knowledge helps him to, he totally nails it by saying to leave half the saru bamboo standing so it can grow back. It's such a boss move that the old-timers are super impressed. They end up vibing the whole mission, chatting about wild herb hunting and bonding over how nature isn't something you can just farm up, while the rest of the crew just stands there in total shock as the newbie tames the beast that took them down. Back at the tavern, everyone's pretty wiped out, with Mel swearing she's done with gatherer escorts for life. But they raise their glasses to Rook, acknowledging that without his crazy plant skills, they totally would have bombed the mission. Just then, Grim and Dats roll in. All smiles, saying thanks to the guild's mad hustle, they scored their stuff early and are heading out to Lanford tomorrow. As Grim is hyped about the guild's efficiency, Rook starts connecting the dots and realizes with a sinking feeling that the huge order that caused the herb shortage and ruined their whole day with old Hana was actually placed by Grim himself, meaning their whole mess was sorta his fault. The trip back to Lanford is pretty chill, except for the random wolf attacks, but they handle those like pros, and they pull up to the city gates with a huge sigh of relief, stoked for a well-deserved 2-day break. While Mel and the crew are just hyped to be home, Rook can't shake this weird feeling of something being off his mind, wandering back to the ruins in the ferry, like some unresolved jam in the soundtrack of his new life. On his day off, Rook hits up a local smithy to check on his gear, where this gruff dude named Gil checks out his beat-up spear and starts talking about the team dynamics. Gil's all about dancing. He used to be a killer blacksmith, but ditched it for the whole sword thing. It's a career switch that Gil thinks is cool, but still kinda shameful considering how much potential Dan had with a hammer. They dive into some deep convo as Gil asks Rook about his ambitions, pointing out that even though Rook looks like he's meant for adventure, just being an adventurer doesn't guarantee you'll score big. He drops some heavy wisdom on him, Before a dude can stress about making a name for himself, he's got to first understand how the world ticks and make a living. Rook totally vibes with that, realizing parental worry about cash is like universal, even in a fantasy setup. The story shifts into a montage of the next few days, where the crew cashes in big from the monster surge around Langford, with Mel taking down this huge beast all by herself to show she's still got it. But even with all the gold and the wins, a shadow of unease starts creeping into Rook's heart. This vague feeling of being down follows him into his dreams. This restless sleep gets wrecked when a loud banging on his door jolts him awake. Sweaty and disoriented, he hears someone screaming his name from the hallway. The urgency in the voice is like a mega signal that their chill time just took a nosedive. Up high on a freezing watchtower, a guard named Wugs is questioning every life choice he's ever made, especially the one that has him freezing his fingers off just to keep watch, while his partner Beige is all about maintaining that stiff upper lip for a promotion. But their boring chit-chat gets cut short when Wugs spots something weird on the horizon. The chill vanishes from Wugs' vibe as he stumbles over his words, getting Beige to pay attention to the terrifying scene unfolding far away. A massive dust cloud rolling up from the mountains signals a massive stampede of monsters that sends both guards into a total panic, ringing the bells like mad. The ominous sounds echo through Langford, interrupting everyone's daily grind and drawing a crowd of worried adventurers to the guild hall, where the veterans start explaining to the confused newbies that the double ringing of the bells means a high-stakes emergency is coming for the city gates. The crowd quiets down as Guildmaster Darren Waller hits the stage. His face is all serious as he drops the bomb. A giant horde of monsters is charging straight from the northwest, and a big splinter squad has caught a whiff of people aiming right for Langford with less than 30 minutes until they hit. Definitely way too late for anyone to bounce. Waller lays out the stakes, saying this isn't just some migration, it's an all-out rampage with hundreds to thousands of beasts. And while they're still figuring out rewards, the Lord's super keen on the guild taking care of the Westgate in exchange for some gold and maybe rank-ups. The Guildmaster knows how to play it, framing the whole mess as a once-in-a-lifetime chance to rake in cash, while hinting that running away is just weak. Rook, the dark-haired young healer, totally catches on to the desperation behind this ploy to grab manpower for this survival-level crisis. And the hall erupts into a mix of excited cheers and nervous whispers as parties start getting ready to roll, with Rook's squad, including the chill tank Dan and the archer Lucky, gearing up to fight. They notice Mel isn't around, probably stuck at home with her overprotective dad. As the defenders head out, Rook decides to try this move he hopes will work in this reality. Ignoring all common sense, he bolts toward the charging monster, totally catching Dan off guard as he leaps onto the back of this thrashing giant boar. There's no time for explanations, no time to come up with a safer plan. Rook holds on tight to the coarse fur for dear life as he climbs up to its neck, zeroing in on this totally insane goal. Dan warns him not to do anything too wild. Lucky can't wait to tell stories of his epic fame someday, and Mel gives him one last hug, joking to watch out for any bad women. As the carriage starts to roll away, Luke gets hit with the reality of their goodbye in a world without letters, or the internet, making this feel like it could be the last time they ever see each other. Dan tells him to chill and not do anything too wild. Lucky can't wait to hear stories of his epic adventures one day, and Mel assures him he can always come back if things go sideways. In one final sweet moment, Mel pulls him into a hug, jokingly warning him to watch out for bad girls. As the carriage starts rolling away, Luke gets hit with the finality of their goodbye in a world where there's no texting or social media, meaning this could be it for their last goodbye. Waller's barking out orders like a total pro, saying the monsters are going to come at us in waves, and we got to take out the ones going straight for the gate first. Forget those slowpokes. Not that this plan does much to chill the nerves of the newbies. Rook's up on the wall with his squad sweating like crazy, even though it's cold as ice. But he chills out a bit, seeing his teammates so calm. He gets that freaking out is the real enemy before the first swipe even hits the wall. But then he looks out at that massive horde coming in, and his cool kinda slips when he spots a fellow mage throwing up some weak stone wall magic, wishing he could hurl a real attack instead of this flimsy stuff against a living storm like this crazy charge. The call to dip behind the walls comes just in time as the first wave, like a pack of 200 to 300 wild forest wolves, comes crashing towards the city. The energy of a living storm hits like this stampede. The call to fall back behind the walls comes just in the nick of time as the first wave, a snarling pack of 200 to 300 forest wolves, charges toward the city, slamming the heavy gates shut and locking the defenders in their fortress. Tensions at a breaking point as archers pull back their bows, and mages, Rook included, ready their spells, just waiting for the go-ahead to unleash chaos on that wave of fur and fangs. The wolves bolt ahead with crazy speed, their growls over the wind, until Waller finally throws down his hand and yells to fire, breaking the standstill. The atmosphere fills with an insane mix of magic and metal as Rook hurls a light bulb along with a storm of fire, wind water, and arrows, the whole guild dropping it hard on the front lines against the beast pack. The blast is epic, turning that charging gang into a wild mess of explosions and flying bodies wiping out the first wave in seconds. As the smoke clears from the wreckage, the defenders check to see the first wave is toast, calling for a ceasefire that lets everyone collapse and chill for a bit before the next wave hits. In the short break, Dan hands Rook some tough jerky, and even though Lie's giving him heat for snacking on the emergency rations so soon, Rook grabs it, needing that food comfort to calm his nerves after the fight. Their snack time gets crashed by a crew of old-school adventurers who corner the guildmaster, whining about the lack of supplies and throwing shade at the lord for hoarding resources to make the guild use its own cash for defense, calling the whole deal a joke. Rook tunes into their drama, realizing this spat is all about the cash flow for the war. With the Lord playing hardball during a crisis to squeeze bucks from the guild, it's a risky game while monsters pound on the door. The veterans up their complaints, saying they're tired and out of juice to push Waller into dropping more funds or supplies, turning into a chaotic scene right before the next wave rolls in. Watching closely, Rook spots the cracks in their complaints like a worn-out archer who just cast a spell, and a starving dude with a bag full of food, and realizes these are crafty old foxes playing weak to score better rewards, not real scaredy cats. Catching on to the game, Rook dips away from the wall to Dan and Lucky, feeling recharged and ready, his worries about the bleak scene replaced by a chill, icy calm as he gears up to face the second wave on his own terms. The battlefield's turned into a chaotic jam of shouting dudes and roaring monsters as the second wave crashes against the defenders like a freight train. A massive flock of sheep, basically ripped rams on steroids, with horns sharper than swords, charges at the fort. The stampede crashes into the defenders' morale like a hammer. A massive herd of sheep, basically rams on steroids, with horns that could mess up plate armor, thunders toward the fort. Their hooves tearing up the ground, making Guildmaster Waller scream orders with the fear of a guy watching his job and his city fall apart at the same time. The air's buzzing with magic as mages scream their spells, launching a wild barrage of wind balls, water balls, and fireballs shooting through the sky, while Rook, the main dude, jumps in with his light ball, adding a blinding glow to the crazy fireworks show, smashing into the oncoming herd. Even with all that firepower, fireballs are zipping across the sky, while Rook, the main character, jumps into the action with his light ball, adding a blinding glow to the lethal fireworks show, crashing into the advancing herd. Despite the crazy firepower, the tough skin of those monsters is shaking the defenders' confidence. Waller's freaking out as the sheep slam into the walls with massive force. Their crazy headbutts are threatening to smash the walls down, pushing the mages to pour every bit of magic they've got into a desperate fight to stop a breach. The heavy magic work leaves Rook laying on the stone floor, gasping as the adrenaline crash hits him like a ton of bricks. But they score a win, at least for now, as the attackers are pushed back and the Earth mages rush to fix the crumbling defenses. Just when Rook's thinking about how close he is to burning out, a familiar face pops up in his sight. Mel, the cat girl who should be stuck at home, leans over him with this wicked grin and a potion offer. Mel casually spills the tea on her escape, saying she couldn't sit around while the city was getting wrecked. Even though her pops took her spear, making her raid the kitchen instead of the armory to grab snacks and potions for the frontliners, she hands Rook a potion, cheerfully pointing out it's packed with herbs from his aunt, and tells him to chug it while she dishes out food to other worn-out defenders like a one-woman delivery crew. Rook chugs that potion and feels like a brand new dude while loudly flips the battlefield into a wild pop-up shop for her company's potions and snacks, showing that even Monster Mayhem can't stop the hustle. But just when they thought it was chill, a lookout freaks out and screams about the third wave, bringing a heavy vibe that chills everyone to the bone like a horror flick. This new threat is no joke. A massive boar, a B-rank beast way bigger than anything they've faced, looks less like some cute pig and more like a furry tank ready to bulldoze castles. Waller totally loses it, freaking out and screaming for backup, demanding someone hit up the Baron and get those barricades beefed up. His whole act of being in charge just crumbles when faced with this huge monster no adventurer here can even touch. Waller's almost pulling his hair out, clutching his head like, what the heck is happening? As he curses his bad luck as the guildmaster ordering a quick retreat behind the stone walls, praying that maybe the walls can handle what his crew can't. He's yelling for the ranged fighters to shoot whatever they got, trying to whittle down the beast's health before it hits them, but his voice screams doom, as if we're all toast. As the boar comes charging in, Rook can't help but stare, realizing it's taller than 4 meters and looking more like a woolly mammoth than just a regular boar, its tusks shining like grim reapers waiting for souls. The sheer size of this monster makes their aim-anywhere order seem totally lame, and Rook wonders if anyone could survive a hit from such a gigantic beast. His doubts grow as the mages let loose another round of desperate magic arrows and orbs. The spells hit their mark, wrapping the boar in smoke and chaos, giving Waller a glimmer of hope before reality slams back down hard. The beast rushes through the smoke like it's nothing, smashing the gate with the force of a freight train and splintering wood and stone like they're made of paper and candy. Total destruction. The massive boar wrecks the outer defenses, sending chunks flying like javelins and turning the gate into toothpicks in a single terrifying charge. It lets loose a roar of triumph, standing tall on its hind legs like it owns the place, a nightmarish silhouette of power that signals the city's defenses toast. Waller's language gets reduced to a mess of curse words as he watches the monster go crazy, realizing his wall plan went down the drain. Desperate, the commanders shout for the remaining adventurers to circle the beast, trying to swarm it like ants on a big bug. But it shakes them off like they're nothing, making the difference in power painfully clear. Chaos erupts as arrows just bounce off the boar's tough skin, and swords don't even make a dent, leaving the melee fighters panicking, trying to hold the line with shields that look like dinner plates against the beast's massive bulk. Rook and his crew are stuck watching like helpless spectators, not able to use their big magic spells to avoid hitting their own teammates in the mess. Out of nowhere, Mel jumps into the fight, brandishing a spear she probably snagged from the guild, yelling out a battle cry that's equal parts brave and reckless. She thrusts at the beast, but the chaos is way too much. The boar goes berserk, tossing armored guys through the air like they're ragdolls and turning their defensive line into a dump of broken bodies and lost pride. Just when things start looking really grim, a C-rank adventurer named Gantz steps up with a tower shield, puffing up his chest with a bravado that's hard to believe as he taunts the big pig and braces for the charge all by himself. Rook can't believe his eyes, questioning how physics works at this point, but Gantz stands his ground ready as the living mountain of muscles comes crashing toward him. The impact is earth-shattering, a battle of unstoppable force against a kinda movable object. And for a crazy few seconds, Gantz actually holds his position, muscles straining as he stops the boar's mad rush. Rook's jaw drops, totally impressed by the tank's guts, realizing maybe experience does mean something after all. But that victory is super short-lived. Gantz brags about his strength for like a split second before the boar just gets bored and tosses him aside like he's trash, sending him tumbling away. Rook figures out that even with the goddess's blessing, they're totally outclassed, and this fight's just a waiting game for the adventurer's wipeout. The vibe is straight up dire. The guildmaster goes silent, frozen by a lack of options, while the monster keeps on rampaging without a care. But Rook isn't about to accept this dead-end scenario. His mind races, landing on a wild, risky plan that doesn't involve taking the beast down, but instead trying to cripple it, using some mechanic he hopes will work in this crazy reality. Throwing logic out of the window, Rook sprints toward the monster, catching Dan off guard as he leaps onto the back of the thrashing great boar. No time to explain, no time for a safer plan. Rook grips onto its rough fur for dear life, climbing toward its neck, focused on one insane goal. He waves from the window, a blend of sadness and determination on his face, resolute in his choice to never look back and keep plowing forward. Aboard the carriage, an old lady asks him where he's headed, and he spills the beans about his travel plans, a wild ride from Greece to Nurheim and beyond. The other adventurers are freaking out, yelling at him to back off, thinking he's about to do something super reckless. But Rook pulls out this gnarly, paralyzing knife, a wicked little blade for way smaller critters, and gets ready to shove it into the monster's spine, hanging onto the thrashing beast like a cowboy from hell. Rook totally tunes out his buddies in the scary close range of the boar's tusks. He steels himself knowing this is a mad gamble with terrible odds and drives the knife down with all his strength. The blade goes in and Rook grits his teeth, putting every bit of his will into that stab, praying the paralysis kicks in before he gets flung off and stomped into mush. It's a moment filled with pure desperate energy, a healer going all assassin in a last-ditch effort to save a city that's run out of heroes. Suddenly, there's a blinding flash of light blasting from the town's gate, lighting up that massive wild boar that's been messing with the townsfolk. The crowd goes wild, covering their eyes and guessing whether that epic explosion was some kind of magic trick. A gigantic wild boar that's been terrorizing the town. Bystanders get all confused, shielding their eyes and wondering if the bright explosion was caused by a magic tool. The sheer force of the bang sends MC Luke flying backward with a yelp of surprise. His catgirl buddy Mel rushes over her face, all worried as she checks if he's okay. Luke, looking a bit dazed but fine, tells her he's all good before taking the healing potion she hands him. Then he looks over at that gigantic boar, wondering what's up with it. To their shock, the beast is still standing, but totally frozen like it's hit pause. An adventurer nearby yells that the creature is just paralyzed, and someone needs to deliver the final blow before it snaps back. The crisis wraps up quick when a stout dwarf warrior jumps onto the big boar's back, bringing his axe down hard to slice its throat, putting an end to the threat for good. The West Gate, just moments ago, a chaotic battleground bursts into cheers as a report from the watchtower calls the stampede officially over with almost no human casualties, marking a massive win for the town's defenders. Dan, the party's shield bearer, gives Luke a hearty slap on the back, hyping him and the crew up for saving the town. But Luke can only manage a pained and far-off expression, forcing a weak smile while his friends celebrate their victory. In a moment of deep thought, Luke looks back on the thrill of the adventure life, recalling Dan's dream of protecting their town and realizing this is the peak of what they're striving for. Fast forward to the present, the celebrations are popping off, with townsfolk cheering Luke as the hero of the day and a key player in the Wind Dance crew. Dan's nudging him to soak in realizing he's gotten way too comfy in this place. That feeling hits hard when a woman boldly invites him over to her place for the night. And deep down, he knows he's been ignoring something about his own wants. A few days later, after the town's been cleaned up and the monster threat is dealt with, the adventurers who fought in the defense gather to snag their reward. A town official announces that each of them will get 30 gold coins for their efforts. Later, the Baron was actually ticked off that they managed to take down the Great Boar, saying the whole story about humanoid monsters attacking the North Gate was just a made-up excuse for the main force's absence. The Guildmaster talks to the assembled adventurers, mentioning he fought hard to secure their payout, straight from the guild's pockets, after a long battle with the feudal lord. He knows the amount might not please everyone, but promises to hook them up more with guild, telling them to chat with him if they've got any complaints later. As the wind dance party bounces out, Mel says her dad told her about the Guildmaster's serious showdown with the Lord. Meanwhile, another party member, Lucky, jokes that it's tough to argue with the Guildmaster when you can see the stress all over his face, even making fun of his receding hairline. Dan ever shifts the vibe, saying they should splurge their hard-earned cash on a celebratory feast. The crew rolls into a tavern, diving into a hearty meal. Dan happily declares that food bought with reward money tastes like a whole new level, and Lucky totally agrees, hyping everyone to eat until they're stuffed. The convo then shifts to how they want to use their reward. Mel decides she's going to commission some new threads made from saying he's got something important to discuss with the squad. His tone gets serious as he announces he wants to talk about the party's future and their long-term goals as adventurers. It's a question that catches Dan off guard with its sudden seriousness. Luke clarifies that he wants to know their dreams, what they really want to achieve. Dan lays out their simple plan. First, to make sure everyone hits C rank, then to explore the forest around their town, and eventually get strong enough to defend their home from threats like the Great Boar all by themselves. Everyone who helped defend gathers to snag their reward. A town official mentions each person will get 30 gold coins for their efforts. Later, Dan talks about how he suspects the feudal lord. The Baron is kinda annoyed that they actually pulled off defending against the Great Boar, saying the official story about humanoid monsters attacking the north gate was just a lame excuse for the main force's absence. The Guildmaster chats with the gathered adventurers, saying he managed to snag their reward cash straight from the guild's funds after a lengthy struggle with the feudal lord. He acknowledges that the amount might not be the greatest for some, but promises to sweeten it up with guild bonuses, telling them to hit him up later with any complaints. As the wind dance party leaves, Mel shares that her dad told her about the Guildmaster having a big fight with the Lord. Meanwhile, another party member, Lucky, jokes that it's pretty tough to argue with the Guildmaster when you see the stress plastered on his face, even pointing out his receding hairline. Dan, ever the optimist, shifts the vibe by shouting that they should blow their hard-earned money on a huge feast. The crew gathers at a tavern, diving into a hearty meal. Dan happily declares that food bought with reward cash tastes unreal, and Lucky totally agrees, insisting everyone eat till they're full. The chat then bounces to what they're going to do with the reward money. Mel decides to commission fresh threads made of top-notch materials, while Lucky thinks about grabbing a sick bow for future fights. When Dan asks Luke what he plans to do with his cut, Luke kinda dodges, saying he's actually got something crucial to run by everyone. His tone goes serious as he brings up the party's future and their long-term goals as adventurers. Question that throws Dan off with its sudden weight. Luke clears it up that he wants to know what they really aim for and want to achieve. Dan lays out their simple plan. First, they all need to hit C rank, then to explore the forest around their town, and eventually be strong enough to fight off anything like the Great Boar on their own. First, everyone's got to hit up C rank, then vibe in the woods around their town, and finally get strong enough to protect their crib from threats like the Great Boar, all on their own. Luke's all ears, looking super serious, cause he kinda saw this coming. To push things along, he pitches a new idea, asking if they'd be down to move to a town with a dungeon, saying it'd totally help them level up faster. Dan instantly shuts that down, saying he's not about to ditch their hometown. He points out all their peeps here and the stuff they've built. Mel jumps in, saying her dad would go nuts over that idea, reminding everyone how ticked he was with her last mission. That's when Luke spills his heart out, saying he really wants to see the world, travel to different places, check out ancient ruins, and dive into a legit dungeon. He goes all fired up, letting them know his dream is to explore out there, and finally things feel less heavy in the air. Dan's a bit shocked, but Lucky and Mel aren't surprised at all. Lucky says she kind of figured he'd say something like this eventually, and Mel backs her up, saying she could totally feel his need for something bigger after all the time they've spent together. Dan soaking this in, sorting adventurers into two kinds, those who want a chill life and those who are reaching for the stars. He nails Luke as one of the star chasers, and with a supportive grin pushes him to go live it up for them. Mel and Lucky are bummed, but agree it's the right call. Mel, being her bubbly self, jumps in to lift their spirits, telling them not to be sad and admitting she usually cracks jokes in tough spots like this. Seizing the moment, Dan lifts a barrel of ale, saying their hangout's now a joint celebration, one for beating the stampede and one for Luke's adventure. The night flies by with tons of laughs, drinks, and reminiscing. Luke treasures the moment knowing this crew and this party were his first in this wild new world, and their bond's gonna stick even as they go their separate ways. Later, as a tipsy, Dan gets propped up by Luke and Mel. He spills some real talk, calling Luke a solid dude despite being younger. He shares his own freakout during the fight with the giant boar, saying he could have blocked it with his shield, but was too scared to even try. He compares his cowardice to Luke's bravery, who charged at the beast with just a knife, showing a kind of guts Dan feels he's missing. Mel jumps in with her take, recalling how blown away she was when Luke dove into the action, pointing out he looked like he was really vibing with the whole life or death thing. She can totally see him becoming a famous adventurer, digging up ancient treasures and making waves. Listening to his friends, Luke quietly thinks about his own reasons, realizing he's not really a chill-living adventurer or a starseeker. He's just a guy who ditched blacksmithing at home to run from the pain of leaving his pals. Dan in his haze vows to talk to his dad again, confessing that he only became an adventurer to escape, and he'll probably quit halfway through his trip. The next morning, Luke stands next to a carriage ready to bounce. His friends show up to see him off one last time. Dan warns him to not pull any wild stunts. Lucky can't wait to hear stories about his future fame, and Mel reassures him that he can always come back if things go sideways. In a sweet moment, Mel hugs him tight, jokingly telling him to watch out for shady women. As the carriage starts to roll out, Luke feels the weight of their goodbye in this letterless, internetless world, where this might be the last time they link up. He waves from the window, a cocktail of sadness and determination on his face, set to never look back and keep charging ahead. On the carriage, an old lady asks where he's headed. He lays out his travel plans, a mix of hops from Greece to Nurheim and beyond. He thinks back to picking his spot, going through a bunch of places, but nothing hit right. Staring out at the scenery flying by, his eyes light up with purpose. He remembers when he first heard about a specific town, a name that set his heart racing. His ultimate stop, he decides deep down, is gonna be Elm. The carriage keeps rolling down a long road with huge mountains on the side, taking the young adventurer toward his bold new start in the place they call the Labyrinth City Elm. On his way to Elm, the MC finds an unexpected buddy in a tiny winged fairy named Lies, who he chats with sometimes. In one convo, Lies excitedly tells him about a bunch of humans who hit up the fairy garden, making a racket around a pillar, which totally freaks him out as he realizes they're checking out the exact pillar he purified. But Lies says they all bounced by the time she woke up from her nap, which gives the MC a little sigh of relief, though he secretly hopes his part stays under wraps. Their chat gets cut short as Lies' time runs out, and she vanishes after a happy see ya, leaving the MC in awe at how these quick Dan warns him to not pull any wild stunts. Lucky can't wait to hear stories about his future fame, and Mel reassures him that he can always come back if things go sideways. In a final, sweet moment, Mel hugs him tight, jokingly telling him to watch out for shady women. As the carriage starts to roll out, Luke feels the weight of their goodbye in a world without letters or the internet where this might be the last time they link up. He waves from the window, a cocktail of sadness and determination on his face, set to never look back and keep charging ahead. On the carriage, an old lady asks where he's headed. He lays out his travel plans, a mix of hops from Greece to Nurheim and beyond. He remembers the process of picking his spot, how he went through a bunch of places, but nothing felt right. Gazing out at the passing scenery, his eyes pop with determination. He recalls the moment he first heard the name of a particular town, a name that made his heart scream with longing. His final destination, he claims in his head, is Elm. The carriage keeps rolling down a long road lined with massive mountains, carrying the young adventurer toward his fresh start in the place they call the Labyrinth City Elm. During his long haul to Elm, the MC finds comfort in a little winged fairy named Lies, who he calls when he wants to chat. In one of those talks, Lies excitedly shares that a bunch of humans hit up the fairy garden, making a ton of noise around a pillar, which sends the MC into panic mode as he realizes they must be checking out the exact pillar he purified. But Lies says they all took off before she woke up from her nap, which gives the MC a tiny sigh of relief, though he secretly wishes his part in it all stays a secret. Their chat is cut short as Lies' time runs out, and she disappears after a cheerful goodbye, leaving the MC to wonder about how these short moments are. Chilling chats have been a lifesaver for his vibes during this gnarly trip. The journey itself has been anything but chill. 5 days have zipped by since he bounced out to Elm, cruising along a route that took him past a bunch of small towns and straight into a campsite. The carriage, while safe, thanks to a couple of old-school adventurers keeping watch, is totally stuffed, making the ride a real pain. The worst part of this travel is the non-stop jarring from the bumpy roads, which totally drains his energy. It got so rough that on day 2, he wiped out right after hopping off his legs, just giving out. When the carriage finally rolls into a transit town for the night, the MC is super stoked at the thought of some legit rest. He picks up that the roads in the Karam Kingdom are pretty safe, packed with transit towns that help travelers dodge camping in the monster-filled wild. He hops off into the buzzing town square, taking note of all the shops, and makes snagging a spot to crash his top priority before all the rooms vanish. There's an inn nearby, and he forks over the surprisingly steep price of 5 bronze coins for a room and a meal. After grabbing his key, he asks the innkeeper for tips on cool places to hit during a quick stroll. Deciding to check out some shops, he strolls the streets grabbing some funky fruit from a stall for 3 bronze coins. Then he tries some roasted meat from another vendor, thinking the taste is a bit too wild for his taste buds, but he rolls with it as part of the town's quirky vibe. His walk gets interrupted by a tempting invite from 2 gorgeous beast gals who offer him a wild time. But the MC, always aware of his wallet being tight, politely turns down their mega-tempting offer. As he keeps exploring, he's blown away to find a legit bookstore, a rare gem since books are like super fancy stuff in this world. Inside, he's even more shocked by the packed shelves holding everything from plant encyclopedias and herbiographies to books about herbs and the kingdom's past. All while an old lady, probably the shopkeeper, reads quietly nearby. While checking out the titles, his eyes land on a monster encyclopedia and a weird, book of goblin poems before he spots a volume that totally catches his eye, a holy magic grimoire. As he grabs it, he feels something's off about it. His appraisal skill, kind of boosted by the goddess's blessing, shows him its real title is Holy Earth Grimoire, a blue grimoire he's never seen before. Pumped about this find, he takes the book to the counter and asks to buy it. The old shopkeeper warns him that if he has buyer's remorse later, there's no taking it back, but he brushes it off, saying he knows what's up. The price, a crazy 4 gold coins, makes him scream inside. But his curiosity about the new grimoire and his upgraded skill is way too strong to pass up, so he coughs up the bucks and bails. Back in the chill of his inn room, he checks out his new treasure, realizing that now, with Holy Earth magic, he's got at least 7 magical attributes. And holy's a big deal. He rocks. The grimoire lays out a spell to whip up a holy stone from plain old dirt. Deciding to try it right away, he recites the incantation. Oh, the divine land! By your blessing, I summon your breath here. Holy Earth. A super bright light flashes from his hand, catching him off guard. When the shine fades, a tiny sparkling orb sits in his palm, which his appraisal skill recognizes as a holy stone packed with awesome holy energy. As he wonders what it's for, a wild idea strikes him. This, he thinks with a bolt of excitement, is exactly what he's been searching for. Stretching out his hand, he channels his magic into the stone, shouting, "Respond to my voice and show me the way. Summon fairy." A swirling vortex of light bursts from the stone, wrapping into the familiar form of Lies, who pops into his room with a cheerful hello. After they swap greetings, Lies kicks off an energetic and kinda all over the place story about a new blue flower in her garden that drew in a yellow bug which she had to carefully move away before snoozing on the flower. Their convo is as sudden as ever ending when her time runs out, leaving the MC feeling like he just entertained a hyper little niece. The summoning totally zaps his magic, and he flops onto his bed realizing that the spell's high cost makes it hard to use all the time, or so he thought at first. In the end, the gnawing loneliness of his journey gets to him, and he gives in to the temptation of her company summoning her every single day. His days are filled with being crammed inside the carriage with sweaty adventurers, and his nights spent in silence, making him miss his old life and his buddies from the dance parties. Strangely, these hangouts with Lies mixed with listening to wild stories from other adventurers about Elm's 14th floor dungeon just cranks up his motivation. The tales in his own run-in with the Great Boar hit hard, reminding him of his weakness. He knows his win was totally because of a paralysis knife, not his own skills. With his goal of exploring the world feeling like a far-off dream with his current powers, his determination to level up becomes rock solid. Just as this idea settles in, another traveler points out the window, shouting that their destination is finally in view. Finally, the carriage rolls through the super intense stone gates of Elm the Dungeon Town. The MC stretches out his worn-out body as he gets off, giving major props to the drivers for the long haul. Taking a look around, he's surprised that the town is actually kind of chill and not as scary as it sounds. He's thinking about his next move, whether to crash at an inn, check in with the guild, or scope out the dungeon, but really, he's just starving and wants to grab a good meal to celebrate being here at last. Once he hits Elm, the MC wastes no time and hunts down a local spot to eat. A bubbly waitress with twin pigtails comes through, serving him the house special meat soups, skewers, and wine. She totally picks up on his curious looks, figuring out that he's a newbie in town. He confirms her hunch, saying he's from a place called Langford, which she's never even heard of. He clears it up that it's like a 20-day carriage ride to the east, and she's shocked by the distance. While sipping his wine, he can't help but think about how most people in this world don't know much about geography, especially with monsters making travel a total pain, and only adventurers and merchants seem to have maps. Like if you know the names of 3 cities, you're basically a world traveler. He thinks both the pricey wine and hearty meat soup are straight up fire, feeling like he scored a major win on his new home turf. While munching, he picks up on chatter from other adventurers, hearing them talk cautiously about the lower floors of the dungeon and some old girls' party. He also overhears a wild rumor about some shady stuff going down in the west, and a goofy saying about no grass skirt without goblins, which one adventurer was all hyped about, claiming he made it up on the fly. After finishing his meal and getting comfortable in the tavern's vibe, he figures it's time to bounce and asks the waitress for a tip on a cheap and solid inn. She winks and gives him the deets, making him promise to swing by the restaurant again. Following her directions, he finds a pretty good-looking spot and checks in. Once he's in his room, he finally lets himself chill, flopping onto the bed with a huge sigh of relief. He thinks about how traveling solo means always watching your back against thieves and muggers way different from being in a party. Before catching some Z's, he decides he needs some comfort and summons Liz, who joyfully says she chilled on top of a gate that day. She paints this weird picture of a shiny place with flowers splashing water and a big house. Her description is so off from anything he can wrap his head around that he figures he just doesn't get it. He tries to explain that his upcoming dungeon explorations might make it tough to produce holy stones, meaning he can't summon her as much. But before he can finish, her time's up. With a cheerful bye-bye, she mentions it's raining right before she vanishes. The MC is left staring at the empty space, muttering a goodbye, and then realizing it's totally started to rain outside his window, proving Liz has some crazy connection to weather. The next day, the rain's still coming down hard. The MC grabs his gear and heads to the front desk to ask the innkeeper for directions to the Adventurers Guild. The directions seem easy peasy, but Elm is way bigger and twistier than he thought, and he starts stressing about getting lost. His worries turn out to be legit when he follows the innkeeper's directions and hits a dead end, staring up at this insane massive wall that looks way too high to be just a dead end. Confused, he wonders if he stumbled on the city's outer wall, but the wall only goes for about 100 meters ahead. He decides to stick to the plan and turns right, spotting a gate manned by guards. Peeking through, he sees a similar gate on the other side and a really cool building behind it, which he figures must be the guild. He realizes that the guilds all have that same look, so adventurers can spot them right away, which is a nice comfort in a new place. Inside the guild hall, he walks up to the reception desk and asks about re-registering as an adventurer from another town. The receptionist tells him he can sign up anytime and points him to the second floor, also letting him know they've got a resource center. Going upstairs, he gets this deja vu vibe since the layout is super similar to the guild back in Langford. He pops into the resource center and is greeted by a sweet old lady named Carla with pigtailed hair, introducing herself as the admin. The MC notices the book selection is pretty much like other guilds and quickly finds a book just about Elm's dungeon. Plopping down to read, he discovers that all 40 floors of the dungeon have been completely cleared. The monsters range from F to A rank and the final boss is S rank. To his excitement, the book has a detailed map of the dungeon showing what types of monsters hang out on each floor, reminding him of video games from his other world. Faced with the daunting task of duplicating the map by hand, he sighs, wishing he had a camera or a copier, but bites the bullet knowing it's crucial for his survival. As he copies the map, he figures out what a weird symbol he saw earlier meant a transfer monolith. The book explains that these monoliths are scattered every 5 floors and let you teleport between them just by touching them. A woman named Carla, who introduces herself as the admin. The main character thinks the book selection is pretty much the same as other guilds and quickly finds one all about Elm's dungeon. Chilling out to read, he finds out that all 40 floors of the dungeon have been taken. The monsters go from F to A rank, and the final boss is S rank. To his excitement, the book has a detailed map of the dungeon showing what types of monsters hang out on each floor, a feature that feels way too much like a video game from his old world. Staring down the exhausting task of copying the map by hand, he's all like, I wish I had a camera or a copier. But he kinda accepts the boring grind knowing it's gotta be done for him to survive. So as he's copying the map, he figures out what this weird symbol means. It's a transfer monolith. The book spills the tea that these monoliths are chilling every 5 floors and let you teleport between them just by touching them. He finally gets why those huge walls are there. They're not about keeping a castle safe, but locking up the dungeon itself, a triple defense to keep the monsters from crashing the town party. When he rolls up to the dungeon entrance, he's instantly hit by the vibe from the adventurers hanging out there. Their gear and those intense auras scream next-level badassery. He feels like a lone wolf in this squad until his gaze lands on this super gorgeous chick with long hair, pointy ears, and a massive bow, like she's straight out of some epic fantasy tale. As he's checking her out, they lock eyes for a sec, and she looks right at him, making him quickly look away. Getting all shy, he drops a silver coin to the guard, reminding himself to keep his focus on his own goals for now. Heading down the stairs, he sees exactly what the book hyped up the transfer monolith to this big glowing stone slab that'll seriously make navigating the dungeon way easier. After tagging the monolith to register it, he sets his sights on reaching the 6th floor monolith and getting back, officially kicking off his dungeon adventure with a thrill that's next level. Stepping into the dungeon for the first time, he notices the first floor is just a basic noob zone with a chill layout and only slimes hanging around. He spots this fam of adventurers, a dad and his kids dogpiling on a single slime, totally the norm here. Realizing there's nothing for him to do, he bounces over to the stairs leading to the 2nd floor, which he notices are surprisingly safe and free of monsters. On the 2nd floor, he comes across this cute horned rabbit, but just as he's vibing with it, another squad of adventurers swoops in and starts attacking it, all hyped about food. He watches them take out the rabbit, which drops a chunk of meat, and overhears their stoked chatter about their dope pacing for the day. As he moves further down, he starts to get why this dungeon is so popular. Seriously, even kids can hunt here, cashing in on magic stones and munching on the dropped meat. It's a solid spot for training and getting grub. He keeps going down to the 5th floor, spotting goblins, but thinking hunting them just for magic stones is a bad way to spend his time. After checking out the early floors, he heads to the 6th floor transfer monolith. Chuckling at how his first exploration was a success, he decides to test the teleportation gadget, choosing the 1st floor and getting zapped away in an instant. To his shock, he finds himself back at the dungeon entrance, catching sight of the guards outside, all confirming the teleportation worked like a charm. Feeling like a kid on Christmas with this sick isekai'd tech, he keeps teleporting back and forth between the 1st and 6th floors, bursting out laughing. His goofy antics grab the attention of a nearby squad, who casually say newbies are always like this, making him feel kinda sheepish. With some free time before dinner, he thinks it over. Another 5-floor grind to practice hunting goblins or hitting up the guild to snag more maps. He goes for the second option, wrapping up quick before diving back to the dungeon's 6th floor to hunt some forest wolves. He finds hunting in the dungeon way more chill and fun than in the wild, though his backpack fills up with fur real quick. After clearing the 6th floor, he dips down to the 7th, where the dungeon gets trickier with corridors that all look the same, making it super easy to lose your way. Leaning on his copied map, he sneak peeks at other adventurers for backup and realizes this is tougher than he thought. In a narrow corridor, he gets ambushed by a forest wolf and a kobold. Knowing he's got to think fast with a 2-on-1, he pulls a strike first move. He chucks a rock to distract the kobold and then takes it out with his spear, a clean and slick takedown. After taking down his 10th duo of monsters like a pro, he starts thinking about why the monsters are so hostile in the dungeon. The journey is getting more intense with environmental craziness, like low ceilings popping up forcing him to stay on his toes, treating the dungeon like a game where every move counts. Wiped out, but feeling victorious, he finally hits the 11th floor, collapsing in a relieved heap. Before he heads back to chill, he realizes he's got to do something with all that fur he's been hauling around. He spots a street stall outside the dungeon that buys up monster materials, since the guild is only into those magic stones, selling 4 of his pristine pelts for a sweet 7 silver coins. The day's grind hits harder than he thought, and he returns to the inn, crashing into deep sleep. The next morning, after offloading his magic stones at the guild and gathering some gossip, he heads back to the 11th floor. Planning to take it slow and cautious compared to yesterday, he's shocked to see the floor super bright and packed with adventurers. He overhears that the 13th floor had a mad orc spawn the day before, pulling in a ton of adventurers to this level, where orcs and desert cows usually chill. He realizes that all these adventurers mean less chances for him to find stuff, so he keeps pushing to the 12th floor. Finding it just as calm, he decides to keep going until he hits the 16th floor, which his research warned was home to a creature even the taverns shy away from. Before heading back to chill, he remembers he needs to do something with all the fur he's gathered. He finds that street stall in front of the dungeon again that buys monster materials, since the guild is only about those magic stones, trading 4 of his pristine pelts for a sweet 7 silver coins. The day's adventure turns out to be more than he expected, and he crashes at the inn, slipping into a deep sleep right away. The next morning, he sells his magic stones at the guild and grabs some juicy intel before heading back to the 11th floor. Planning to go slow and careful today, he's surprised to find the floor oddly bright and bustling with adventurers. He overhears that the 13th floor had a massive orc spawn yesterday, pulling in way too many adventurers to this level where orcs and desert cows are known to roll through. Realizing all these adventurers will totally cut into his chances of encounters, he pushes on to the 12th floor. Finding it just as chill, he decides to keep going and clear all the way to the 16th floor, a spot his research claimed housed a creature that even the local taverns are scared of. As he rolls into this long hallway on the floor he's supposed to be in, he's met by this giant 4-horned beast barreling towards him like a huge desert cow. Facing off with the charging desert cow, the MC quickly clocks the beast and gets his head in the game. Knowing that going toe-to-toe would be super dangerous, he chucks his spear at the thing. But it just bounces off that tough hide like it's nothing. As the cow takes another run at him, the MC switches it up and casts a light ball spell. To his major surprise, the desert cow doesn't even flinch from the spell. Instead, it jumps up and whacks the light ball with its horns, sending it smashing into the ceiling. That deflected spell causes a huge chunk of ceiling to come crashing down, smashing the desert cow in a bloody explosion. The MC gets splattered with the monster's blood and guts, which is totally gross and unexpected, forcing him to quickly whip out his purification magic to clean himself up. To his shock, once the mess clears, there's this weird white slime-like thing left behind. It's warm and feels kind of full of water. And when he pokes it, it pops, releasing a liquid that smells straight up like milk. He realizes this is the dessert part of the desert cow. After that crazy battle, he finds the next few floors 13, 14, and 15 pretty chill, which lets him catch his breath. Finally, on the 15th floor, he runs into the monster he's been hunting, a huge brutish orc. This orc shows way more smarts than you'd expect from a monster keeping its distance while sizing him up. The MC goes for the first move and the orc swings its club with some serious power. He realizes that even though the orc's all about that brute force, his body has totally leveled up in this new world, giving him strength and resilience he never had back on Earth. Feeling pumped with new power, he steps up his game, dodging the orc's sloppy swings and landing a killer strike with his spear. After taking out the orc, which is a monster seasoned adventurers usually chase for cash, the MC feels super confident in his progress as a newbie. Digging through the monster's loot, he finds a basic old spatula. Back at the guild, he shows the spatula to the receptionist, who confirms it's just a basic drop that pops up a lot. But then he pulls out something rare from his haul, an upgrade scroll, which he says is for boosting weapon defense. She's ready to buy it from him for a sweet deal of 5 gold coins, but thinking back to a convo with an old adventurer named Han, the MC decides to hang on to this valuable piece for now. The next day, he takes a chill day exploring the city and getting his spear fixed. The innkeeper, noticing he's laid back, praises him for taking things slow, saying those who rush tend to end up 6 feet under fast. He then offers to show the MC a dope spot to refresh his soul, where girls of all kinds, including those with cute animal ears, hang out. The MC, curious but blushing, notices the city is surprisingly not crowded for a weekday. He thinks about how annoying it is that shops here don't have signs, making it super hard to know what they sell without stepping inside. He maps out his stops, putting the blacksmith at the top of his list before hitting up other places, like the Tailor Tavern and bookstore. At the blacksmith's, he asks to get his iron spear repaired, which the smith says he can do for 3 silver coins. While he waits, the MC checks out the shop's stuff, noticing the plain, simple designs of their weapons. His eye catches a sword that's got a blue tint, and the blacksmith tells him it's mithril, a light and strong metal used for magic gear. The smith explains that while mithril itself isn't magic, it has cool properties that amp up magic and elemental attacks when used in gear. The MC gets hyped about the idea and asks if the blacksmith can use magic to boost a weapon, but the smith laughs it off, saying that's impossible. He explains that mixing elements with weapons needs a legit magical process and top-notch alchemy, which he's only ever dreamed of seeing. Once his spear is all fixed up, and even better, the blacksmith hands it back, telling him to take care of it, pointing out he's got to rely on both strength and magic. As the MC leaves, he thinks about the blacksmith's words, especially about creating magic weapons, which now fills his mind. Low on cash for that kind of weapon, he decides to focus on hunting for better magic books and heads to the bookstore. The bookstore in this massive city has that's totally consumed his brain. Since he's broke and can't afford a sick weapon, he decides to hit up the bookstore for some dope magic books. That bookstore in this huge city has a way more titles than he's ever seen, including some cool books like a magic dictionary all about creatures, and even one about the boy who turned into a slime. He thinks about starting with creation ability books, but ends up being drawn to a multi-volume series that really gets him excited. It's all about spirit magic, a type of magic said to be used by elves. As he reaches for the book, another hand wearing a black glove reaches for the same book at the same time. He turns to see who it is and ends up face to face with the gorgeous elf adventurer he spotted at the dungeon entrance. What a wild and fateful second encounter. The MC finds himself in a super awkward situation at the bookstore, locked eyes with the elf adventurer he had admired from a distance. Flustered, he quickly offers her the book, saying he was just checking it out. The elf takes him up on his offer, but before she dashes off, she gets closer and asks if he needs anything, her intense stare totally making his heart race. Quickly brushes it off as a mistake and bounces after giving him a thanks, leaving the MC wishing he could chat with girls while thinking he really should grab a different book. Even though he missed that chance, he feels like it was a chill day, just because he met an elf. Feeling pumped, he keeps searching, and to his surprise finds a Holy Wind Grimoire and a Sacred Magic Grimoire. He takes the Holy Wind Grimoire outside, thinking about all the cool things it could do, like maybe working as an air conditioner, after discovering Holy Light is for healing, and Holy Earth is for making magic stones. A loud scream disrupts his thoughts, coming from a nearby church. He spots a crowd of adventurers outside, and they're not exactly in a party mood. One adventurer is kneeling in front of the church, praying hard to succeed. The crowd is hyping him up. Then he starts this ritual trying to power up his sword, but it glows a creepy color and then breaks into dust. The adventurer is crushed, shouting that 5 years of grind are now ashes, and that his adventure dream is totally over. As his buddies lead him away, a priest rolls up to the MC, asking if he's there to boost his armor too. The MC plays it cool, acting like he's just a random passerby, curious about the noise. The priest spills the tea, saying that trying to boost armor at the church is an old superstition from a legend about some dude who totally succeeded in the past, claiming it was God's blessing. But the more people believed, the more epic fails happened, leading to a whole lot of resentment, the church getting wrecked, and a ban on blessings and boosting rituals. Still, hopeful adventurers keep coming, craving to upgrade their gear. The MC can't help but wonder why a god in this game-like world would set up a whole vibe of hope and disappointment. What went down today keeps him restless, his mind flooded with fresh info about magical armor and mithril. He checks out the Holy Wind Grimoire he snagged, which has info on bouncing back from poison and paralysis. But the excitement for boosting armor is totally gone after witnessing the heartbreaking scene. The memory of old adventurer Han's warning about the risks of chasing dreams now feels super heavy. He's piecing together the bigger puzzle, seeing the backstory of armor boosting as a key clue. The next day, he heads back into the dungeon, his brain still tangled with unanswered questions. He hits up the 16th floor, a spot most adventurers avoid because it gives off creepy vibes and is crawling with undead monsters. His research said this level is home to skeletons and ghosts, and only a few brave adventurers dare to dive this deep for that sweet loot. Even though he's spooked by the undead, he pushes through, recalling a note he read about poison needle traps on this floor. He tiptoes through the corridor, spotting a shady patch of floor with bricks that are totally off. Knowing traps in this dungeon aren't lethal straight away, he decides to trigger it on purpose to study what goes down, pressing on the sketchy brick with his spear. A bunch of pencil-sized needles shoot out from the wall, embedding themselves in the stone behind him. Not a killer trap, but he realizes that sting would really hurt, so he makes a mental note to tread super carefully. The threats in the dungeon feel more real than ever. Suddenly, there's a loud clatter echoing down the hall, and a skeleton warrior jumps out from the shadows, charging at him with a sword raised. The MC reacts like a reflex ninja, dodging just in time. Even though he kinda expected them, seeing a moving skeleton still gives him the creeps a leftover from his old world vibes. He studies the creature, amazed at how it moves without muscles, spotting the glowing stone in its chest as its weak spot. The skeleton turns out to be surprisingly strong and crafty at sword skills, way better than orcs or kobolds. The MC's spear, which is supposed to be a piercing weapon, barely makes a dent in the skeleton's bony frame, his thrusts just glancing off. Realizing he needs to hit that magic stone in its chest, he busts out a complicated spear move, parrying the skeleton's sword, snagging its blade, and spinning around for a perfect hit. The hit shatters the skeleton's core, and its bones crash to the ground in a pile. But to his bummer, the magic stone also gets wrecked in the process, leaving him to think up a new strategy for tackling these tough foes. After taking down the skeleton, the MC checks out the sword it dropped. It's rusty, but could work. In the end, he passes on it, saying he's got no sword skills and it's a hassle to lug around. Before jumping into another skeleton fight, he wants to mess around with magic to see what he can whip up against those creepy skulls in the dark. He summons a ball of light magic, a simple glowing spell, and sends it flying down the hallway. Surprisingly, the spell doesn't just light up. It blows up on impact, with a skeleton showing off some crazy destructive power with a range of about 10 meters. With this newfound knowledge, he strides into a room packed with more skeletons, and spots the glowing stone in its chest as its likely weak point. The skeleton turns out to be a surprisingly tough and smart enemy. Its sword skills are way better than those of orcs or kobolds. The MC's spear, a piercing weapon, doesn't really hold up against the skeleton's bony body, his thrusts barely grazing its ribs. Realizing he has to go for the magic stone in the chest, he pulls off a complicated spear move, cowling the skeleton's sword, clutching its blade, and using the swing to spin around and deal a precise blow. The hit shatters the skeleton's core, and its bones crash to the ground in a heap. But to his disappointment, he finds that the magic stone also got destroyed in the process, leaving him to think of a new game plan for taking down these tough foes. After bringing down the skeleton, the MC checks out the sword it dropped. It's rusty, but seems usable. Still, he ultimately decides not to take it, saying he's not about that sword skill's life, and it's a hassle to carry. Before diving into another skeleton battle, he figures he'll test out his magic, wondering what he can do against the creepy, shadowy skulls hiding in the dark. He summons a ball of light magic, a simple glow spell, and launches it down the corridor. To his surprise, the spell doesn't just light up. It explodes on impact, with a skeleton showing off some unexpected destructive power with a range of about 10 meters. Armed with this new knowledge, he moves into a room filled with even more skeletons. This place is giving off major haunted house vibes. He's trying to hit one of the undead with his holy light spell, which is supposed to heal, but it's like, what's the point? You can't heal a corpse, duh. Seriously? The jump scares are way scarier than the actual fighting. He takes a breather to get his head straight and give his new holy wind spell a whirl, but nope, still just as useless. Time for a snack and a quick pit stop. He thinks about how important it is to know your spells and their limits. While cruising through a crossroads, somebody hurls a sword right by his head, barely dodging it. And guess who's back? That orc he saw go down earlier, now swaggering out with the sword he just tossed. He realizes taking on a sword-wielding orc is definitely way harder than messing with skeletons. All those fights on the 16th floor are starting to pay off, because he can feel his holy light spell leveling up, which is kinda tight. After a gnarly battle, he tries to hit the remains of a super energetic skeleton with a purifying spell. Guess what? It totally flops. Out of nowhere, he feels this weird fizz in his magic, and just in time, he twists away from another skeleton that's lunging at him. Totally confused by his magic glitching, he gives that purify spell another shot as the skeleton creeps closer. This time, he nails it right when the skeleton's literally in his face, and it crumbles to dust. He's like, maybe this spell needs to be up close and personal to work. And get this, the skeleton drops a grimoire, a holy fire magic book. He books it to a safe spot to check out his new score, questioning what holy fire even means. He tries casting the spell and is shocked when a slow-moving white flame pops up in his hand instead of some quick fireball. The flame drags through the air before it sticks to a wall, and then, boom, it goes off with a big blast. He's all unsure about how this could play out in a fight, so he figures he'd better test it on some skeletons. He's thinking about how the type of monster might mess with what they drop, especially laughing at the idea of a skeleton dropping a holy magic tome like that's totally against everything it is. He spots a new test target and fires off holy fire. The skeleton is just like nah, and dodges the flames, forcing him to chase it down, cornering it, before finally nailing it with the holy fire. The white flame works like a charm, and he finishes the job with his purify spell. And just like that, this skeleton drops another grimoire, but this one's all dark and spooky. It totally raises alarms. He checks out the black grimoire, noticing its red and black cover really stands out. The title reads, Fire of Chaos. And he's like, what even is that? He remembers chaos from all the Western game lingo, usually dealing with demons or dark stuff. That clicks with the quarter devil race he's seen during character setup, who's all about chaos powers. He figures that holy magic must vibe with a holy realm, so chaos magic has to link to the demonic one. He takes the book to the guild to get it checked out, but the receptionist is like, nope, we don't take defective grimoires. These books are a waste and usually just tossed in the fire. Total bummer, but he kinda saw that coming. He still believes if holy magic is legit, then chaos magic's gotta be real too, even if it's been brushed off as just a myth. He heads to his fave tavern to think it over, grabbing a nail. It's probably demonic or something. He takes the book to the guild to see how much it's worth, but the front desk chick tells him they don't deal with busted grimoires. Like books that look kinda cool, but are really just garbage and used for firewood. They're not worth squat. Disappointed but not shocked, the MC bounces from the guild, holding on to the hope that if holy magic is a thing, chaos, magic, those other players who got sucked into this world, wondering where they landed and if they got stuck with their races, trying to shake off the unknowns. He decides he needs to focus on the now and celebrate his win with his new spell, Holy Fire. The catgirl waitress slides him a free appetizer, and just as he's about to dig in, he spots a familiar face, the cute elf from the bookstore. He's super nervous saying hi, and she totally remembers him as the dude who gave her that spirit magic book. It's totally what he should be vibing on right now, so he focuses on the win of finding a new spell, Holy Fire. The catgirl waitress slides him a free appetizer, and he asks her how it was, and she suggests they spill the tea over a drink. He's internally bouncing at the thought of having a drink with an elf and quickly hops on board. They join her crew, who are already chilling at a big table. Asks how the book went, suggesting they chat over drinks. The MC is screaming inside at the idea of grabbing a drink with an elf and eagerly jumps at it. They roll over to her crew, who are already chilling at a big table. One of the party members, a feisty red-haired beastman, teases the elf Elise about hanging out with kids again. The leader of the squad, a serious dude named Roa, asks Elise what's the deal with the MC. The beastman Raiders keeps poking fun, calling the MC a straight-up kid, which makes Elise step up for him, pointing out Raiders' own lame jokes. They do intros. The young archer is Natasha, the elf is Elise, the beastman is Raid, and their boss is Roa from the Wings of Light crew. The MC drops his name Luke. After a round of cheers, Elise starts roasting the spirit magic book, saying that like 60% of it is on point, but the rest is a total mess, and the author clearly wasn't an elf. When Luke asks why she even bought it, she says the title Everything About Spirit Magic caught her eye, and she wanted to see if it had anything new. Just then, the waitress rolls in with Luke's food, a plate of Nakai with herb sauce, which he thinks is like the perfect meal. Elise, who's not into meat, happily agrees to share his meal, and Luke finds it totally delicious, and totally made for an elf's taste buds. Raiders is all about getting him to chow down on more meat. The MC is vibing with the lively crew, which is a dope change from his solo grind. He's loving the moment, whether it's faded memory or just some random luck. Meanwhile, in a fancy castle, there's another player, a dude named Yusa, munching with a stunning blonde babe who's called a saint. She wonders who the quiet guy Yusa is, asking if he's the one she's looking for. The Saint Luciana insists he calls her by her first name and brushes off his sword. Training worries, wanting him to hang out longer. Yasha's totally grossed out by her forward and flirty vibe, while one of his buddies, a shady-looking dude, pipes up that he's heading to town to scope out some cuties. Luca shouts that making friends is key to training and latches onto Yosha, making him super uncomfortable. A team member, a young lady watching this unfold, sighs that even their usually laid-back buddy Masa is falling for the Saint's total tricks. Meanwhile, Henrik is all over the Saint, handing her a book of founding records and hyping up a sick elven hero named Galilardo Rockstein. The Saint looks bored stiff until Henrik gets a buddy, Cannon, who starts rambling about the hero, dragging her away to her dismay. The MC is still enjoying his chill dinner with the Wings of Light crew. Elise asks him to join the party, and Natasha jabs if he spent the day in the dungeon too. Raiders notices the MC is in a solid mood, and Natasha teasingly brings up that he conquered his ghost fears on the 19th floor, which makes him blush hard. He awkwardly admits he got a goddess's blessing, earning a knowing but slightly sassy congrats from Elise and Natasha, causing the rest to crack up at his adorably naive moment. Elise then fondly remembers swapping Natasha's diapers, which totally mortifies Natasha and makes her snap at Elise to shut it. The MC finds out that Wings of Light has been around for ages, and Natasha is actually the granddaughter of one of the OG members, with Roa and Elise stepping up as her surrogate parents. The ribbing about Natasha's diapers keeps rolling much to her annoyance, while the MC can't help but admire Eliza's youthful vibe thanks to this world's weird magic. During the last month of adventuring and getting close with the crew, the MC has been leveling up, picking up experience on floors 16 to 18. He's also been checking out the loot drops from monsters, which range from useful stuff like meat spellbooks and weapons to the boring rocks. He learns that his holy fire magic is super effective against the undead. The skeletons freak out when he uses it, but it's not as strong against low-level living monsters like goblins and kobolds who act like it's a nasty smell, which he finds kind of hurtful. The biggest change he made this month was moving from a crummy inn to a more chill middle-class joint. He could swing it thanks to his steady cash flow from dungeon crawling. Just the upgrade to a clean bed and decent grub hit him with the realization of how stressed he'd been in those gross digs. He notices that the food in this world, especially from the higher-tier monsters, is pretty basic, missing the fancy varieties and sauces he's used to. His thoughts get cut short when he hears another adventurer totally bombing a water spell, which is a hilarious sight. Dude's got magic but zero skill. The MC gets it since he can summon fire but can't control it worth a dime. Dinner goes wild when he spots someone melting a yellow substance on their bread cheese, a food he's crazy about and didn't even know was a thing here. Thrilled, he gets directions from the innkeeper and bolts to a shop that sells it. It's mad expensive, 2 gold pieces for a tiny block, but he buys it anyway before heading to an alchemy store to scope out new grimoires, hoping his higher level will let him grab more spells. At the shop, he tries to vibe with a light arrow magic grimoire but feels nada. Realizing he hasn't hit his peak yet, the shopkeeper spills that arrow magic was a big deal back during a war. But now the church snatches up all the healing grimoires the moment they're in stock, making them super rare and pricey for regular folks. This hustle, she says, is how the church keeps raking in dough. The MC remembers what Elise told him. Spirit magic her jam doesn't even come from grimoires, a secret she keeps close to her chest. The next day, feeling the extra boost from his goddess's blessings, after leveling up, he charges back into the dungeon for his first showdown at his new power. He realizes his senses, speed, and power are all cranked up, letting him wipe out monsters on floors 16, 17, and 18 like a boss. He hits the stairs to the 19th floor in half the usual time. He recalls Natasha's teasing about his ghost fears and steels himself to at least glance at the infamous 19th floor, feeling brave enough with his newfound strength. He knows from this point on, the dungeon's going to be crawling with only skeletons and ghosts immune to physical hits and only taking damage from magic. As he makes his way to the 19th floor entrance, the dungeon's going to be crawling with only skeletons and ghosts immune to physical hits and only taking damage from magic. As he makes his way to the 19th floor entrance, he hears some footsteps and voices coming from above, and he's like, "Is it a ghost party or what?" Then a crew of 4 adventurers shows up on the stairs, but just as he's about to say what's up, a 5th shady dude pops out from behind them. Up on the 19th floor, the MC is watching as those adventurers come down, with that 5th guy keeping his hand on his sword like he's ready for a fight. The MC instantly picks up on the vibe. Dungeons are super sketchy, a total setup for theft and drama, so he knows he has to be careful with strangers. He remembers Eliza saying that as a cute solo adventurer, he's basically a walking target, especially down in these kind of deserted lower levels. So he just chills, not wanting to stir the pot, while he's debating whether to stand his ground or bounce. The crew spots him, and one of the girls totally brushes him off like he's just some punk kid. But the sword guy gives her a sideways glance for asking all those nosy questions and letting her guard down, reminding her that even a kid can be dangerous. The girl says sorry to the MC, wishes him luck, and they keep moving. Feeling relieved they're not a bunch of rogues, the MC kicks himself for being too chill, realizing that while he lights up the place with his magic, they couldn't even see him in the shadows. He shakes off his mistake and heads to the 19th floor. The vibe there is way colder, way heavier than the 16th floor. Couldn't spot him in the darkness. He brushes off his bad call and makes his way up to the 19th floor. It's even chillier and gets this heavy vibe than it was on the 16th floor, which is a real icy chill that he now knows is just his own fear creeping in. Suddenly, he's face to face with a fully decked out skeleton, but his recent close calls have him ready. He kicks it hard, a move he wouldn't have even thought of using before. He's feeling good about handling the skeletons here, but then out of nowhere, he hears a soft, giggly voice. He picks up from some other adventurers freaking out nearby that the usual move for these tough floors is just to book it past the monsters straight to the transfer device on the 21st floor. The MC, being a research nerd and leveling up addict, thinks that strategy is weak and passes on it, but then that giggling voice gets closer. A spooky ghost pops up in front of him, its voice echoing like it's straight out of a horror flick. Totally lame, so he nixes the idea, but the giggly voice is closer this time. A freaky ghost pops up in front of him, its creepy voice bouncing off the walls. The ghost charges at him, zipping through him and zapping his energy, a straight-up nightmare. Acting on instinct, the MC fires off a super bright ball of light right at it. The blast sends the ghost flying, and he's left coughing and a bit rattled. He sees he took it down, and it drops a dark magic stone. That wild encounter leaves him shaking, and he gets why other adventurers steer clear of these floors. The magic stone feels extra spooky, and it's a magic crystal, a rare score. But the thought of hunting more ghosts for drops makes him want to turn back. He fights with his fear, not wanting Natasha to think he's a wuss, or at least to start babying him, and, in the end, decides to keep going, confident he can handle it. His map brings him some comfort, but he wishes it had more info about the ghosts because the drawings don't even come close to how terrifying they really are. He vows to jot down his experiences for the next adventurer and focuses on the fact that he's never seen a ghost straight up wreck the run-through strategy. Feeling pumped, he hears another ghostly voice creeping up behind him, and he lets loose another ball of light shouting, "Bring it on! You can totally come back if you're brave," before grabbing onto his courage. But it only lasts a second, as he realizes his other spells Purify and Holy Fire work just as well as the Ball of Light, while Holy Wind just sucks. Now that he knows how to take down the ghosts, he makes it to the transfer device playing around with the Holy Fire spell to get the hang of it for emergencies. Back at the guild, he sells the dark magic crystal he snagged. The receptionist spots it and tags it as a D-rank item super useful for escape plans and hooks him up with a solid 6 gold coins. While he's finishing up the chief examiner, Muriel gets called over. The same receptionist who took care of his busted grimoire tells him he's met all the requirements and just got himself a rank up. She's all pumped and whips out his guild card to make it official, clearly loving her job. After a bit of fumbling, she nails the stamp for his new rank. She fills him in that in the Elm Guild climbing ranks is all about how many magic stones an adventurer brings back. This varies from place to place, depending on the types of monsters in the local. The MC connects the dots that in Elm hunting for magic crystals is the best bet to power up. His horrifying ghost showdown is now just a chilling memory. Back in his inn room, he calls in Lies for some comfort, but finds her just sitting there quietly on his bed, turned away from him, looking all moody and off. The MC summons Lies in his inn room, but she's totally not her usual bubbly self. She's facing away, acting all quiet, and her vibe feels heavy and confusing. Finally, she spins around, tears in her eyes, asking why he didn't summon her, acting like he hates her. The MC is shocked, realizing it's been almost a month since he last called her. He quickly reassures her he doesn't hate her at all, explaining that he was just swamped with work. His apology kind of flips the switch, and Lies starts crying, confessing she thought he couldn't stand her. In his inn room, but she's totally off her game today. She's sitting with her back to him, not showing her face, and the quiet vibes are filled with a sadness that leaves him puzzled. Then she finally turns, her eyes all watery, as she's like, "Why didn't you call me? You hate me, don't you?" The MC is shook, realizing it's been almost a month since he last summoned her. He rushes to reassure her that he's not hating on her at all, just been swamped with work. His apology opens the floodgates, and Lies starts crying, spilling that she thought he was mad at her. The MC feels a gnawing guilt, realizing he totally thought she'd be all good in her own fairy tale vibe without him, like his calls were just crashing her party. He figures out that she had been low-key waiting for his call and makes a serious pinky swear to hit her up regularly from now on. That promise instantly boosts her mood. A few days later, while deep in the dungeon fighting off the undead, he realizes the brain strain and all those tough battles are solid training. But he still finds time to call her, sticking to that promise, which helps him keep his sense of stability and purpose on this solo quest. He knows her vibes are super important to him, and even thinks about snagging her a little souvenir. Up on the 22nd floor, he faces off against a couple of undead foes, a skeleton and a ghost. He immediately whips out his Holy Fire spell, freaking out the skeleton, and follows it up with a Purify spell to wipe out the ghost. Having leveled up his skills, his holy magic is now quicker and packs a punch in battles. After the fight, he's totally shocked to see the ghost dropped a blue grimoire. He figures out it's a conjuring location grimoire, a type of holy magic he's never seen before. Knowing monsters hardly ever show up in tight spaces with peeps, he decides to try out the new spell in the relatively safe room. He casts the spell with all the power in the sacred world, like I'm releasing the magic conjuring location. A super bright light floods his hand, filling the room with glow. The spell gives him this crazy clairvoyant radar-like sense, letting him see through thin walls and doors within a 10-meter stretch. He can even sniff out monsters like a skeleton creeping in a nearby corridor. As he plays around with this fresh ability, he feels something's off, like he's missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. He strolls around the room using the spell to map his space. He spots a dead end on one side and what looks like the dungeon's outer wall on the other. But then he catches a vibe that one part of the wall feels super weird. His new magic reveals a hidden room on the flip side, a room that's not even on his map. Pumped by the chance of finding this secret spot, he starts hunting for an entrance. Checking the walls and floor for switches, he finds nada. Frustrated, he thinks of just smashing his way through, but then realizes he's not exactly skilled like a bandit or a stonemason to spot a secret mechanism. Just when he's about to give up and ask Elise for help, he spots a single, oddly shaped block in the wall. He pokes it carefully with his spear, and surprised, the block sinks in, revealing it's a switch. A section of the wall slides open, revealing a tiny hidden chamber with a lone altar and a bag chilling on top. Cautious of traps, he pauses before going in, but his curiosity wins. He tosses a few rocks into the room to check for danger before tiptoeing inside. The bag on the altar seems like a regular leather and cloth waist pouch, but when he peeks inside, it's pitch black and he can't see the bottom. He checks it by sticking his long spear in, and poof, it disappears completely. With a joyful scream, he realizes he's hit the jackpot with a magical bag, something he's always dreamed of. He knows this is going to make his adventures in this world, which he's now calling Tesla, a whole lot easier. He puts the bag on but remembers his buddies Mel and Dan saying how rare and pricey these things can be. He decides keeping his new treasure a secret is the smart play to avoid unwanted attention. As he's leaving the hidden room, his conjuring location spell picks up a ghost cruising through the wall. He greets it with a big smile before taking it out with a purify spell. The ghost drops a rare white magic stone, wrapping up what he thinks has been an unreal lucky day. He leaves the dungeon feeling like a champ, telling the guards he scored a super awesome drop. Unbeknownst to him, his recent finds are about to stir the pot majorly. The MC swings by a shop only to find it packed. He wants to mess with his new magic satchel and sell the white magic stone he found, but he decides to hold off until the crowd cools down to keep his sweet loot on the down low. He hides the satchel under his cloak and realizes that with his fresh cash from the labyrinth, he can finally upgrade his gear. He thinks about how much the white magic stone might be worth. He knows dark magic crystals are a big deal and sell for 6 gold coins, but he's not sure what the white one goes for. So he figures it's better to chat with a blacksmith or alchemist before selling, worried he might regret letting it go too cheap. Just as he's about to stash the glowing stone away, Elise and her crew spot him. Raid points it out, all excited, but Elise quickly hushes him, reminding him this ain't the time. The raiders apologize to the MC, and they bounce, leaving him scratching his head at their weird vibes. The guild's main examiner, Mural, who overheard, strolls over to him, mentioning that she thought she saw a light magic crystal in his stash. The MC spills that he's decided not to sell it, which she calls a bummer. He asks her about how much it's worth, and she hits him with the shocker that a D-class light magic crystal can snag 30 gold coins, while a C-class is worth an insane 100 gold coins. Stunned by the price 5 times more than a dark magic crystal, he decides to wrap it up. He's got his questions lined up for the day, and it looks like Elise is also on the hunt for one. He's tripping over the crazy price, thinking there can't be many adventurers out there who can actually take down ghosts for this stuff. So he's starting to wonder how monster drops are linked. A ghost drops a sacred magic grimoire, but a skeleton drops some chaos magic one that makes 0 sense and feels super fishy. Freaking out that he might be missing some major rule about the dungeon, he decides to dig deeper. But first things first, there's some other stuff he's got to sort out. Kicking things off by checking out his brand new magic satchel. Back at his crib, he plays around with the bag, feeling what's inside and picking what he wants to pull out like a pro. Then he tests how much it can hold by cramming all his stuff in there, and whoa, it all fits. But bummer, he finds out there's a limit. No item bigger than the opening's gonna make it inside. Next up, he sees if time takes a chill in the satchel. He throws in a bottle of hot water, and the next day, total bummer, it's lukewarm. Time runs normal in there, which means it's not going to work for holding on to groceries. Still, he can stack up on dried snacks. With that in mind, he's ready for a shopping spree, loading up on smoked meat salt, veggies, and apples. He also hits up a winery for some decent wine, way better than that watered-down junk he usually grabs. The vintner spills the tea on the difference between primo grape wine and the second-rate stuff, and our dude buys a bottle of both. Carrying those 2 hefty bottles feels like a workout, so he ducks into an alley to stow his goods and spear in that slick magic satchel. His shopping adventure takes him to the North District, the ritzy side of town where all the posh folks hang out. The vibe is totally different, and he's stunned by the glass windows, like he didn't even know they had that kind of bling in this world. He remembers Mel saying glass is super pricey, made from some rare drops used in potions. He's on the way to this laid-back spot, kind of like a cafe back in his world, but way fancier, meant for the rich peeps. He feels out of place as an adventurer. And OMG, the prices are nuts. A single piece of caramel costs a gold coin, but he goes all in and orders one of everything on the menu anyway. Wiped out from the experience, he heads back to his inn. Back in his room, he celebrates his shopping win with a glass of fancy wine, super hyped about his haul, which includes a cheap glass lantern and those bougie sweets. He tries out his holy fire spell and manages to pass the flame to the lantern's candle. Then he throws on his new gear. The robe fits like a dream and keeps his magic satchel tucked away while making it easy to grab stuff out of it. While putting away his old beat-up armor, he spots a scratch on his arm, a little throwback to when that forest wolf gave him a scare back in Lanford. He gives his armor a nostalgic look, realizing it's been his ride or die since day one, and he's all grateful for the good times. The dude back from his shopping run sits at his table with the sweets he nabbed, laying them out on a plate for Liz, hoping she'll dig them. He calls her over, and she pops in with a gasp of joy, her eyes lighting up at the sight of all the treats. He tells her to munch before they go stale, and she digs into a cookie, her face lighting up with happiness. As they snack together, the dude feels all kinds of nostalgia, realizing it's been ages since he's had anything sweet besides fruit. Liz, on the other hand, is practically bouncing off the walls with excitement, even while struggling to take a bite of a big chunk of cake. The dude offers to wrap up the leftovers for her to take home, and she's all in for that. He carefully wraps up the remaining goodies in that fancy paper from the shop, as her time starts ticking down. Liz grabs the bundle like it's a comfy body pillow and beams, "Catch you tomorrow," then vanishes, leaving the dude wondering what her parting words really mean. Meanwhile, we switch gears to another player in this world, a young guy named Tanapon going up against a massive golem. He rushes in, spotting that magic stone as its weak spot. He takes the golem down, and his crew, including the flirty Saint Lucia, totally thanks him for saving their skins. When he checks on one of the hurt guys, an older dude who used to be an adventurer says Tanapon did something whack during the fight. He smashed the golem's magic stone, which is a no-no because that gem is worth big bucks if sold. He breaks down some dungeon know-how, saying how monster drops depend on how they bite the dust. Piercing a monster wrecks the meat, while snagging fangs or horns clean bumps up the chances of getting loot. The crew rolls up to their destination, Arles, where a legendary hero's chill spot is. Yusa, the quiet dude in their group, gets challenged to pull the hero's sword out of a stone, but he does it facing a bunch of identical doors leading to skeletons. He's using his new knowledge about the Purify spell's proximity to clear out the rooms like a boss. He's been running tests all morning, and thanks to what he'd heard at the guild, he thinks he's piecing it together. His theory, taking out undead monsters with sacred magic, flips the drop's attributes. He spends the day stalking skeletons. Points out that Tanapon was acting super weird during the fight. He smashed the golem's magic stone, which is a no-no for adventurers since it ruins a valuable item that they could sell. He schools them on some dungeon wisdom, saying, monster drops are tied to how you take them out. If you stab a monster's flesh, it wrecks the meat. But if you cleanly snag fangs or horns, you up your chances of getting good drops. Then they arrive at Arles, the chill spot where a legendary hero took a breather. Yusa, the quiet dude of their crew, gets called to try pulling the hero's sword out of the stone, and he's got this serious face like he's about to do some crazy stuff. Back in the dungeon, the MC is lost in a maze on the 22nd floor, a bunch of doors leading to nothing but skeletons. He's using his new game plan with the Purify spell's range to clear the rooms like a boss. He's been on this test theory all morning, and based on what he heard at the guild, he thinks he's onto something. His theory: using holy magic to take out undead monsters flips the drops they drop. He spends the day hunting down skeletons. But like he's only getting the basic magic stones, which aren't enough to back up his theories. Using his conjuring spot spell, he spots a crew of adventurers getting wrecked by a horde of skeletons nearby. He sees them getting totally wiped out and having to peace out. He swoops in to take care of the leftover monsters and gets a sweet drop, a light magic crystal. With this key item, he can finally prove his theory, but his hype doesn't last long, because no more light magic crystals drop for the rest of the day. He heads to the guild to sell his normal magic stones, but the head examiner Mural asks to chat with him one-on-one. In a chill reception room, Mural breaks it down that the guild's whole deal is to back adventurers by gathering and sharing the latest info on monsters and their loot. She says while adventurers don't have to spill the beans, it's in the guild's interest to keep any hot finds on lock. With a bag of 200 gold coins sitting on the table as a down payment, she gets straight to the point, wanting to know how he scored the light magic crystal. The guild wants to keep any juicy finds for themselves. With a bag of 200 gold coins chilling on the table, as a deposit she cuts to the chase, asking how he scored the light magic crystal. The MC, expecting this convo, lays out his theory. He noticed that when he took out a skeleton, which is a dark-type monster with a holy magic grimoire, it dropped a holy magic item, the complete opposite of its vibe. He figured out that taking down undead with sacred magic flips the attributes of what they drop. Mural gives him the nod on that, breaking down that according to the guild's archives, light magic crystals aren't supposed to drop in Elm's Labyrinth at all. So that means the only two ways to get one are either to find it by some random chance in the dungeon or to have jacked it from someone. Mural spills how she put together that he found it in the dungeon. She knows he's been chilling in Elm for over 30 days and heard him asking about both light and dark magic crystals when he cashed in his stones, which shows he had some insider info about their existence and worth. Plus, a dungeon guard had mentioned that on the day he got the crystal, the MC said his day was going great. Faced with her sharp insights, Mural wants to know more, leaving the MC thinking about his next move. After that tense run-in with the guild, the MC bounces back to his room totally wiped out and just crashes onto his bed. He thinks about the whole grill session, realizing that just saying nah to sharing his info could have been a bad idea, probably landing him in cuffs in a full-on search, especially since his method is tied to the whole secret world of sacred magic. Instead, he played it cool, claiming the light magic crystal was a gift from a merchant buddy in Langford, a reward for his help during that big stampede. He used his connection to the Langford guild to add some street cred to his story and explained away his earlier knowledge about the goddess's blessing as part of the same thing, successfully throwing the guild off his scent. He casts his conjuring spot spell to check for any sneak surveillance and gets a little freaked out to find some sketchy people both inside and outside the inn, confirming the guild is on his tail. He thinks about filling Elise and her crew in, but decides against it, since that would mean going head-to-head with the guild. Plus, he knows Elise is hunting for a light magic crystal, and the Wings of Light Party are savvy enough to dig up info about sacred magic on their own. The next morning, after a sleepless night practicing his magic, he heads out. Feeling all drowsy but determined, he immediately realizes he's got someone tailing him. He goes to the dungeon, which is super packed for so early in the day. He teleports to the 21st floor transfer room and can instantly feel more adventurers rolling in at the 20th floor monument, confirming they're after his secret. Realizing he needs to throw his tail off, he drops down to the 19th floor. His followers are shook, struggling to keep pace in the dark. Meanwhile, the MC can see without light and easily leaves them in the dust, making his way, clears throat. To the 16th floor to shake them off. There, he spots 2 more adventurers chilling by the transfer monument and plans an ambush. He figures his priority is to bail and waits for a party to roll through, planning to use them as cover. He times his exit just right, bumping into the ambushers and saying sorry for rushing before bolting away. He manages to ditch his pursuers, but his way to the stairs is blocked by another squad of adventurers. Just when he's wondering how to slip past Elise, and raiders show up saying they were looking for him to have a make-up dinner. Raiders challenges the ambushers, telling them to back off, while Elise urgently tells the MC that he needs to bounce from the city pronto. She quickly yanks him away, and they make a getaway from the dungeon. Later, after a quick and tearful goodbye filled with lies, the MC runs into Raiders who's been waiting for him. Raiders leads him through the dark city streets. Explaining that Elise and Natasha are causing a distraction, the MC spots that they've got 3 more people tailing them. Raiders confirms his gut feeling and guides him down a narrow alley. Raiders takes out 2 of the pursuers like a champ, while the third, a liaison, manages to escape. He explains that all this is his fault for dropping the light magic crystal news at the tavern and that he's just trying to clean up his own mess. The MC realizes just how deep he's gotten. The guild has effectively boxed him in the city and threatened him, and words out, putting even the most jumpy adventurers on high alert. The guild's been all sneaky, asking other adventurers to take him down, making it super hard for him to sneak around in the labyrinth. The MC is totally taken aback by the guild's aggressive moves. But Elise spills the tea, saying their guildmaster is kinda reckless, and with all the hype for light magic crystals and some power struggles going on, things are getting a little crazy. Elise drops the bomb on their escape plan. They're planning to bounce to the next kingdom. Armis then hit up the Republic of Canadilla, where the guild's grip won't reach. As they cruise through the city, they hit a checkpoint on a busy street. Elise, not wanting to show off her holy spirit, Magic tells the MC to get behind her. She spots a guard hiding behind a billboard and gets her bow ready. To the MC's shock, she doesn't take out the guard. Instead, she shoots an arrow that wakes up a sleeping dog whose barking distracts everyone so they can slip away. They're soon joined by Raiders and Natasha, who've had their own run-ins with pursuers. Natasha points out that a D-rank adventurer hanging solo in the lower levels is totally wild, and now it seems like the MC is hiding some serious skills. Their way out gets blocked by a giant mob of adventurers. Raiders, itching for a showdown, step up to face them, but they're not keen on Eliza's no-kill rule. As the fight's about to kick off, the MC frets about his pals, but Elise reassures him, even though there's a hint of doubt in her voice. She questions his good vibes, suggesting some might be pretending to be chill, just to scoop intel on the light magic crystals. Suddenly, a memory of Lies munching on the sweet treats he gave her pops into his head. The MC thinks back to his time with the fairy Lysolo, realizing her seemingly random riddles were actually glimpses into his future. Her mention of Mr. Pig hinted at that epic boar rampage in Langford, and her talk about rain was a sign of the downpour the day he cheesed out for Elm. Now it clicks that her cryptic warning about a dangerous tomorrow was just another glimpse, and her summoning spell Answer, My Call and Show Me the Way, was her way of guiding him whenever he was feeling lost. This lightbulb moment clears any doubt Elise had about him and his knowledge of light magic crystals. When she asked if he was getting spied on, he could confidently say no. Trusting Liz's guidance gives him this unexplained certainty. He tells Elise he's looking for a light magic crystal because he's got a light attribute, even though he doesn't really need it. Then he spills the tea on spirit magic secrets. It's learned through magic crystals, each with its own unique vibe that decides the kind of magic you can memorize. He clarifies he was just curious about the vibe of the MC's light magic crystal, not how he snagged it, and that the spirit magic book was a hidden elven secret he bought to keep fake info from spreading. As they keep making their getaway, Eliza's search magic doesn't pick up any of the guild's peeps. But the MC spots one chilling on a far-off chimney, which he figures is just luck. Elise gets ready to blast the observer with a black arrow, which leaves her crew shook. But turns out it's just a distraction. An explosion shakes the downtown, pulling the observer's focus and giving the crew a chance to bounce out unnoticed. They move fast, and the MC can't help but be amazed by Elise's speed. As they climb over the city wall, he's worried about Raiders and Natasha, who blew up the spot, but the rest of the gang assures him that their fiery buddies got this. They reach the meetup spot outside the city, but their leader Roa is MIA. The MC uses his location magic and senses something deep in the woods, but it doesn't feel dangerous. Then, bam! They get ambushed. A hail of arrows comes down on them from the shadows. The arrows are just a setup for the real ambush. A poison dart hits Elise in the side. As she goes down, the MC figures out what's hiding in the forest. It was a demi-human posing as a monster to trap them. He sends a blast of light into the trees, but the attacker slips away. Right then, Roger rolls up with a carriage, and the MC tells him Elise has been hit with a poisoned arrow. Roa, realizing he's got a target on his back too, hustles them into the carriage to get out of there. Inside the moving carriage, the MC tries to help Elise, who's gasping for air. As the poison spreads, Roa tells him to grab the high-level potions and antidotes from a nearby box. As another group of pursuers blocks their way, Roa takes charge and charges right through them, clearing the path. The MC tries to get the antidote into Elise, but she's too weak to drink. He remembers how kindly the Wings of Light treated him and feels a wild urge to pay it back. In a last-minute move, he decides to unleash his holy magic, pouring all his power into a holy wind spell to wrap around and heal her. A bright light fills the carriage, and when it fades, Roger is floored to see that Elise is all better. With the danger past, Roa tells the MC to head south through the forest to the city of Ruda. While he and Elise lead the pursuers east, he hands the MC a bag filled with everything he'll need for the journey. Roa suspects the attack was all part of some master plan, but Elise rolls her eyes at that, instead grilling why they got targeted and not the MC. He theorizes that, now that the danger's past, Roa tells the MC to head south through the forest to Ruda City. While he and Elise distract the bad guys to the east, he hooks the MC up with a bag filled with everything he'll need for the ride. Roa thinks the attack was planned, but Elise rolls her eyes at that, asking why their crew got picked on instead of the MC. He's just throwing ideas out there. Jealousy and envy are totally normal for adventurers, right? She spills the tea about knowing way more about the MC's skills than he thinks, mentioning how he's got killer search skills, found a new hack to score light magic crystals, and can totally heal from gnarly poison. She playfully says she'll save her questions for next time they chill, reminding him they're tight. They bounce, and the MC waves goodbye, promising to shout out to the rest of her squad for him. As he strolls through the woods solo, he can't help but think back to his chill but wild moments in Elm, feeling a wave of nostalgia and bummed vibes wash over him. He keeps going, and that sad vibe gets replaced by total awe as he hits the coast and sees the ocean for the first time like it's a symbol of his fresh start. The MC rolls up to the port city of Ruda and finds a tavern to grab the local fave grilled gia and a cold mug of ale. A young waitress spills the secret to enjoying the dish. Just grab a big piece of fish, chug it, then slam a big gulp of ale. He follows her advice, and he's totally blown away by how sick the flavors are, the fish exploding in his mouth right when he washes it down with ale. The tavern owner tells him the ale's bomb because the water's straight from the nearby mountains. After leaving Elise and her crew, the MC heads south camping along the way. He's stoked to find that the holy fire in his lantern keeps the monsters away, making his journey way safer than he thought. He rolls into Ruda quicker than he expected and decides to crash for the night to stock up and gather some wisdom. The city's built on a slope buzzing with action as a supply hub for salt and marine goods. While he's restocking, a shopkeeper clues him in that there's no way to boat into the city of Harmtoe because a sea monster swallows any fishing boat that dares to leave the coast. The only way to sneak across the border is through a mountain route clear of large monsters, but no horses allowed. He also finds out Ruda's the salt capital of the country, so stocking up is a breeze. He's munching his tasty fish and ale while soaking in the epic view, but feels kinda bummed that he has to dip out so soon. The next day, he kicks off his journey into the mountains, finding the road so jacked up that riding a horse is a no-go. The rocky path is draining his energy, and he notices the sparse greenery means monsters would struggle to chill there. Using his magicite, he spots a faint beast path that he totally would have missed otherwise. He follows the trail, thinking it's the mountain route for crossing the border. After a super tiring climb, he thinks he's hit the summit and the national border. He finds a flat spot to chill and grab some lunch, but right as he's about to sit down, a voice whispers, "Ilden's door." He freaks out, and the ground beneath him gives way, sending him tumbling. He manages to catch himself and looks down into the abyss. Hearing that voice again, he realizes with a shock that whatever's down there is somehow connected to him. He climbs down and finds this weird black stone covered in a gross tar-like stuff that feels like burnt wood. Thinking about the fairy gate, he decides to hit it with his purify spell on the weird gunk. The black stuff melts away, revealing a huge stone monolith with glowing runes, just like the one at the ferry gate. He's scratching his head over how this hidden spot even got here, wondering if it was supposed to be concealed. He touches the monolith, realizing it's Ilden's door, and it lights up bright before sliding open, showing a staircase leading down into darkness. The staircase is covered in that same grimy stuff from outside, showing whatever's inside came from there. He figures whatever's lurking is probably tied to him somehow. Not sure whether to go in, he calls on Liz for some help. She shows up all panicked, holding a huge bottle, yelling, "There's a girl trapped inside who's crying for help." The MC, having stumbled onto a secret door on a secluded mountain, calls Liz to ask what to do. She pops up in a tizzy, clutching a big bottle and yelling there's a girl stuck inside that needs rescue. She explains that everything's pitch black in there, and the girl's all alone and begging for help. Moved by her plea, he's totally on board to help. As a thank you, Liz hands him the potion she was holding right before her time runs out, and she vanishes, leaving him with a newfound sense of purpose. The MC heads down the stairs, noticing the black mold-like stuff from outside is getting thicker the further he goes. He makes his way down a zigzagging line of stairs, deciding to save his magic by not purifying the mold. At the bottom, he finds a black puddle that suddenly shifts and lunges at him. He dodges the attack spots that it's a slime, but one that's way tougher than usual since his first spear jab only makes it sizzle. The slime keeps attacking, and some of that black mold splatters into his mouth, forcing him to quickly whip out his purification spell. Since his physical hits aren't working, he switches to magic, blasting it with a light ball, and finally taking it out. The slime drops a massive dark magic crystal, confirming it's got some serious strength. He keeps pushing through the underground path, tackling several more of these strong black slimes over the next couple of hours. He finally hits a dead end, but his magic sight reveals a sizable empty space behind the wall. He sees the walls also coated in that black stuff, and after purifying it, he finds a hidden handle. After trying and failing to push or slide the mechanism a bunch of times, he finally yanks it, and a massive section of the wall slides open. He keeps battling more of these strong black slimes for the next couple of hours. Eventually, he ends up at a dead end, but his magic sight shows there's a big empty space behind the wall. The wall is covered in the same black substance, and after cleansing it, he manages to uncover a hidden handle. After a bunch of failed tries to push or slide the thing, he pulls it, and a giant part of the wall slides open. So there's this secret passage that takes him to this huge auditorium kind of room. He spots some wicked black crystals sprouting from the walls and a gnarly statue way at the back. After giving the statue a good clean, he's totally blown away to see it's Teslacia, the ultimate deity of this world, like someone he's seen in churches before. He's hit with the realization that he's standing in some hidden chapel or church, and it just reminds him out of nowhere of that godly figure he saw in the White Room when he got reincarnated. It gives him the creeps, and he decides he's got to wrap up Liza's quest and bounce out of there ASAP. This church has a super confusing maze-like vibe, but he picks a path and starts exploring gamer instincts kicking in, making him want to search every corner for loot. The hunt is magically draining though, so he has to keep using his purify spell like a lot. To save some juice, he tries out his magic sight, focusing the power so it can peek through stuff like beds and walls. He ends up finding some magic guides and a few coins, which ain't much, but could be useful hints that this joint just fell apart recently. He figures he'll set up camp for the night, scanning the area with his magic sight for any trouble. Then he freaks out when he spots some gigantic monsters just outside the area he's chilling in, but thankfully they can't get in. One of the beasts is a huge 10-meter tall slime, the daddy of the black slimes he took down earlier. Just the sight of it makes his heart race, and he knows going solo against that thing is a no-go. He decides to focus on rescuing whoever's trapped and finding a way out, not on taking on that massive slime. He sketches a plan to sneak past the Papa Slime by ducking behind this row of busted buildings. He creeps along, but as he slips past a pillar, he locks eyes with a giant single eye staring back at him from the shadows. The blob reacts, blocking his escape route. With its hulking body, cornered, the MC whips out his lantern and zaps the creature with a light ball spell, but it does nada. The massive slime looms over him, sealing off his only exit, leaving him stuck in a super desperate fight for survival. Stuck in this underground hideout with the huge Papa Slime, the MC watches in terror as the creature starts oozing that nasty black mold stuff he's seen all over the ruins. The slime goes all out with a long-range attack, firing a projectile of the black goo at him, forcing him to scramble for cover on the uneven ground. He clocks a 5-second pause between the slime's hits, which is like a tiny glimmer of hope in this freaky mess. He remembers his theory about monster drops and figures if the smaller black slimes drop dark magic crystals, this mega one is rocking the same attribute, just like he would against any skeleton or ghost. He decides to throw down his purify spell, blasting the creature with holy energy. The slime screams out in pain, trying to suck in his hand and spear. The MC fights back by pouring all the magic he's got left into a full-on power purify spell from deep down. The insane surge of energy makes the colossal slime pop in a blast of dazzling light, leaving the MC totally wiped out and in pain, his hand charred to the bone from the magical backfire. After he chills and recharges his magic, he scoops up the spoils of victory, a massive pure white light magic crystal, proving his theory that taking down dark attribute monsters with sacred magic flips their drops. He also finds this big white egg, which his appraisal skill tells him is the egg of a leaf a holy beast. Realizing this must be the girl Liza told him to save, he carefully grabs the egg and starts searching for an exit. He finds a tunnel that looks like an old coal mine, different from all the other paths he'd been on. His spear took a beating in the fight, and he's kind of stressed about running into more monsters. He takes a breather, his stash of grape wine running low, and suddenly hears this weird sound like mining coming from way deeper in the tunnel. He creeps forward carefully and sees a light ahead. A stocky figure steps out from the shadows, rocking a goofy mask and heavy armor. The figure cheerfully greets him with, "Yo hoy!" The MC jumps a bit, but feels relieved that this creature, probably a dwarf, can actually talk in his language. He confirms he's human, and after a tense moment, the dwarf asks if he wants to die. The dwarf spills that they're in this cave of death, and that black gunk is a nasty poison they call death powder. He warns the MC that to keep going, he's got to wear a mask and goggles and cover himself up completely. The MC throws on a mask and bandages, and the dwarf who's introduced himself as Brock quietly leads him through the cave. Brock is pretty impressed that the MC made it through the dark poisonous cave without a map, and the MC is equally blown away by how Brock navigates the pitch black space. They hit a spot where the death powder isn't around anymore, and Brock asks if the MC knows Zephyr magic, which is like wind magic. The MC casts the spell, brushing the leftover dust off their clothes like Brock told him. Brock explains they're in an old abandoned mining tunnel. He reveals he came back to find the MC because he was super curious. He was shocked to see someone reckless enough to wander into the cave of death without a safety plan. Soon they reach this giant fortified door. Brock announces that this isn't an exit, it's something else. With a dramatic wave, he welcomes the MC to the hidden village of the dwarves. The masked young dude stands there in shock before this massive wooden door embedded in a steep rock wall. There's a dwarf wearing a strange plague doctor-style helmet. The death powder is no longer present, and Brock asks the MC if he knows Zephyr magic, a type of wind magic. The MC casts the spell, clearing the remaining dust from their clothes as instructed. Brock explains they are in an old abandoned mining tunnel. He reveals that he came back for the MC because his interest was piqued. He was shocked to see a careless person wander into the cave of death without any precautions. They soon arrive at a large fortified door. Brock announces that this is not an exit, but something else. With a grand gesture, he welcomes the MC to the hidden village of the dwarves. The masked young man stands in stunned silence before a massive wooden door set into a sheer rock face. A dwarf in a peculiar plague doctor-style helmet. Chilling next to him, shovel casually thrown over his shoulder. The MC is totally blown away like, is this actually the dwarf village? And Brock the dwarf just nods like, you got it bro, this is my crib. Past the gate stands a massive city that's literally carved into the mountains. And the MC is like, whoa, this architecture is so totally dwarven. But this spot feels way cooler than your average underground hangout. As they stroll down the cobblestone streets, the MC can't shake this weird vibe, his eyes skimming the deserted buildings. He asks Brock, yo, where's everyone at? Brock just shrugs and goes, this place is a ghost town, man. I'm the last dude here. Noticing the stale air, Brock does a quick wind spell, summoning a light breeze to freshen things up. He explains that dealing with the funky air is key for underground living. The MC can't help but ponder the endlessness of this world and how little he really knows. After Brock takes him to a chill little stone house, he's like, come on in. And when he takes off his helmet, the MC sees this wise old face with a super awesome, intricately braided white beard. He offers the MC some grub and says he can ditch his gear now that they're out of the cave. The MC, now off the hook, plops down on this tiny bench, peeping the snug but cramped space. They raise their drinks to celebrate their new friendship, but as soon as the MC takes a sip of the mead, his face scrunches up in total disgust at the thick, tart way strong drink. Brock cracks up explaining that dwarven mead is definitely an acquired taste. To redirect their convo, he lays out a map showing the MC where they are way deep in the mountain zone and points out that the path back is super long and twisty with loads of dead ends. Realizing he'll need some snacks for the trip, the MC remembers the goods chilling in his inventory and offers Brock a dried sea stockfish. Brock recoils like he just smelled something nasty and says he can't deal with it, but perks up when the MC suggests grilling it first. A moment later, Brock is happily wolfing down the grilled fish, calling it a tasty treat, especially with a sprinkle of salt. As he enjoys the fish, Brock drops a bomb saying that one of those blocked-off paths can only be crossed on a certain day, leaving the MC scratching his head. Curious about the fish, Brock asks where it came from, immediately recognizing it as a Ruda special. The MC freaks out, learning that Ruda is part of the Karam Kingdom, and this mountain range isn't even connected to the Armus Kingdom. Turns out the cave entrance the MC used. Now, the Cave of Doom, he learns, is a massive underground system linking 3 different nations. Brock starts grilling the MC about what he saw in the depths of that cave since he cruised through the deadly death powder that usually blocks the way. Nervously, the MC spills the tea about the ruins of a city that looked a lot like this one, with black magic crystals popping up everywhere and this huge black slime. That confirms an old fairy tale for Brock. His grandpa used to tell him stories of another dwarf village deeper underground that got wrecked by some non-human beast, turning it into the Cave of Death. The dwarves who survived booked it, which explains why there are so many dwarves in Ruda. While they're chatting, Brock spots the big speckled egg hanging from the MC's neck, something he couldn't stop thinking about since they first met. The MC says he just found it, and Brock instantly kicks into gear saying it's probably a monster's egg. He jokingly asks, is it edible? Which totally freaks out the MC, who's like, no way dude, I'm not eating some random egg. Brock then suggests it might hatch into a summoned spirit, a creature magically tied to its owner, noting that raising one from an egg is the best way to win its loyalty, though it ain't cheap for most adventurers. Later on, when they hit the guest room, the MC decides to call up his own spirit for some wisdom. He summons Rise, this tiny cute fairy holding up the summoning gem. She zooms in with her wings fluttering, all hyped that he saved this little egg. When the MC asks what he's supposed to do with it, she gives him this super confusing advice to cue it and then be wide, leaving the MC totally baffled. He just stares while Race tries to show him by flying in circles and making these wild gestures, yelling, like that. He gets that he's got to use some magic, so he gives it a shot with a basic chant, "Oh, holy light." But Rise is like, "Nope, you got to cue it first, then be wide." She clarifies that he has to concentrate magic power just below his belly button with a Q feeling, then unleash it all at once with a boy. Feeling defeated, the MC places his hands on the egg and tries to follow her crazy instructions, funneling a steady stream of raw magic into it. As he starts to feel wiped out, realizing this is the second time today he's gone all out with magic, Rise is cheering him on like a hyper coach. Suddenly, the egg starts to tremble. Little cracks zoom across its surface, and boom, it bursts open in a dazzling flash. From the remnants, a surprisingly large creature pops out covered in fluffy white fur with these long ears and a fox-like tail. The MC thinks it kinda resembles an otter, but then remembers what Brock said about watermarks, realizing it's probably a weasel-like creature. Gives him an adorable cue as he gently rubs its head. The MC says he just snagged it, and Brock instantly clocks it as a potential monster egg. He jokesters if it's edible, which totally freaks out the MC, who's like, "No way, I'm not eating some random egg." Brock theorizes that it might hatch into a summoned spirit, a monster that's magically tied to its owner's schooling, that raising one from scratch is the best way to lock in its loyalty. But it's a major money sink for most adventurers. Later, after crashing in a guest room, the MC decides to hit up his own spirit for some wisdom. He summons Rise, this tiny, beautiful fairy, and holds up the summoning gem. She pops up in a sparkle of wings, bouncing with joy that he saved this kid, aka the egg. When the MC asks what to do next, she gives him some wild instructions to cue it and then be wide. Completely lost, the MC just stares as Reezy tries to show him flying in circles and waving her arms, shouting like crazy. He kinda gets that he's gotta use his magic. The first try, just a basic holy light chant, gets a big fat nope from Rise, who tells him he's gotta cue it, then be wide. He clears that he needs to concentrate his magic's power right underneath his belly with a Q feeling and let it all go at once with a bow. Feeling defeated, the MC puts his hands on the egg and rolls with her wild instructions, pumping a steady stream of raw magic into it. As he keeps feeding the egg energy, he feels himself getting wiped out, noting this is the second time he's drained so much magic today. All while Rise cheers him on like a hypercoach. Out of nowhere, the egg starts shaking. Tiny cracks shoot across its surface like wildfire, and it breaks open in an epic explosion of light. Out pops this rad little creature from the shell, super big and all furry with cute long ears and a tail like a fox. It vibes with the MC and gives a soft ooh-oh. The MC is like, whoa, it totally looks like an otter, but then remembers what Brock said about watermarks and figures. It's probably like a weasel or something. It lets out this adorable cue when he pets its head. The holy beast is way more hyped than you'd expect for a baby. It jumps onto the MC's shoulder and can't get over how soft it is. Even though he knows he should probably track down its mom, he figures for now he's stoked to have this adorable buddy on his adventure. The next morning, the MC heads downstairs to find Brock has already whipped up breakfast. The dwarf spots the new critter chilling on the MC's shoulder and asks what's up with it. The MC spills the tea about how the egg from yesterday cracked open, and after thinking for a sec, he decides to call the fluffy little beast Shin. Brock says that's a dope name, but Shin is a bit suspicious of the old dwarf, letting out some defensive noises while staying snug on the MC's shoulder. The MC laughs, teasing that the little guy probably overheard Brock's munching comments, which makes Brock all flustered as he insists he was just messing around. After munching on breakfast, they hit the road to check out that sketchy path Brock mentioned. As they creep into the dark tunnels with Brock leading like a boss, the MC suddenly gets a weird vibe and warns the dwarf that something's up ahead. Brock's totally chill. He already knows what's coming and points into the cave, where this freaky walking fungus with root-like legs shuffles into the light. As the thing blows out a cloud of spores, Brock tells the MC to back it up before he casually swings his massive hammer, smashing the fungus monster to bits with one epic hit. He explains that even though these fungi aren't tough, there's plenty of them, and then cheerfully adds that they've got dinner sorted, which totally freaks the MC out at the thought of eating it. Seeing more fungi in the distance, Brock offers the MC a chance to throw down with one. The MC is down but feels a little shaky about how his spear will do against something like that. He dives in, but his precise stab just glances off the monster's rubbery cap. Realizing his usual style isn't cutting it here, he struggles as the fungus lashes at him with its roots, eventually getting in a clumsy but solid stab. Brock watches closely, noting that the MC's fancy footwork and quick moves are super skilled, but completely mismatched for fighting monsters. The MC totally agrees, inside realizing his fighting style was built for dueling humans back in his old life, which Brock knows could be a seriously dangerous weakness. After a bit, the sound of rushing water leads them to their goal, a massive waterfall that's like a literal wall blocking the cave's exit. The crazy force of the water makes trying to cross it seem like a death wish. Brock, seeing the MC's bummed face, just laughs and pulls out a magical timekeeper, explaining that the waterfall backs off every so often, but it'll be a long wait this time, like 20 whole days. Kinda bummed about the wait, the MC is just glad to have found a chill host in Brock. Back at the crib, a new issue pops up: what to feed a baby holy beast in an underground cave. While the MC is stressing about the lack of milk or grass, Shin takes charge and nibbles his finger, revealing a set of brand new teeth. The little creature is already weaned. With no other food options, they offer Shin some of the cooked steak fungus, and the little beast digs into it with so much excitement. To show Brock some love for his kindness, the MC asks if there's anything he can do to repay him. Brock's eyes light up as he asks for that black crystal the MC spotted in the cave. The MC is totally cool with that and pulls out a large, perfect dark crystal from his bag, way beyond what Brock expected. Brock explains that this mutant crystal, which only grows where there's death powder, is super special because it lets magic flow through it real easily. He shows off by taking a fragile knife made from the crystal and charging it with magic, instantly making it so hard that it can slice right through solid metal. Later that night, while checking out a piece of the crystal in his room, the MC suddenly gets hit by a wild coughing fit, spitting out dark blood all over his sleeve. Panicked, he figures out he's been hit by the death powder. He knows he can sort it out with holy light, but then a scary thought hits him. Purifying it might just turn it into the harmless white powder chilling in his lungs, leaving the problem not solved at all. Thinking of it like a video game poison status that healing spells can't fix, he realizes he's got to get rid of the source of the sickness. Instead of holy light, he thinks to use a different spell, holy wind. He hopes it'll blast the particles out of him. Closing his eyes, he casts the spell, and a cleansing aura wraps around him. As he imagines the wind clearing his lungs, the spell works. He can breathe easier, and the tightness in his chest chills out. Totally wiped from the whole thing, he collapses onto his bed, where Shin hops over to comfort him. The MC gives the fluffy little dude a grateful pat, thanking it for worrying, and joking that its fluffiness is the ultimate cure. A few days roll by in the underground dwarf village, and the MC gets into a groove, spending time learning the basics of blacksmithing from Brock exploring the tunnels clearing out fungus monsters, and surprisingly getting good at making dried fungus jerky. Brock, however, thinks the MC's fighting skills still need some serious work and decides to train him personally. Cruising through the underground dwarf hangout, the MC gets into a chill routine, learning the blacksmith grind from Brock exploring the lit tunnels and clearing out those fungus monsters. And somehow, he gets really good at making dried fungus jerky. But Brock is still low-key annoyed about the MC's fighting skills and decides to personally whip him into shape. He tells the MC to treat him like a low-level goblin and just go wild. The MC starts throwing precise spear jabs, but the old dwarf, armed with just a short sword, easily blocks every single hit. Switching it up, the MC spins his spear like crazy, getting ready for a sweeping move, but Brock just steps aside with a chill whoop, making the MC stumble right by him. Giving in, the MC can't believe how smooth Brock moves. The dwarf says that their spar was enough for him to see the MC's style and the ground they're on. He asks the MC why he dodged his last simple counterattack, and the MC, confused, says it's totally logical to dodge to avoid getting hit. Brock explains that this is really the main issue. With the MC's 10 goddess blessings, a goblin's hit wouldn't even leave a mark, yet he dodged like it was a deadly strike. The MC is shocked, admitting he had no clue the blessings were such a solid defense, since he treated every attack like it was life or death. Brock points out that this super cautious method, probably from battling skilled humans, is pointless and risky against monsters because it leaves him vulnerable. The MC realizes this like a brick hitting him. He's been fighting with this huge invisible handicap the whole time. Just as the MC processes this mind-blower, Brock suddenly starts coughing, hard, spitting blood into his hand. The MC rushes to help, but the dwarf waves him off, saying it's just the death powder and there's nothing to do about it. The MC, though, isn't having any of that and recalls his own experience. Unleashes his holy wind spell. A soft cleansing breeze fills the cave, a vibe Brock hasn't felt in 10 years. The dwarf stares at the MC in disbelief. His coughing stops, and he asks if this epic magic came from him. The MC plays it cool, but Brock gets it right away, that this dope magic is how the kid made it out of the cave. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Brock says he can live longer now, and to show some love, promises to whip up a whole fungus feast for dinner, which kinda just gets a muted yeah from the MC. Meanwhile, way far off in a sunny forest, the hero's crew, along with a bunch of soldiers, is creeping forward. They're hunting a beast from the Demon King Squad, a massive, shadowy monster that's like a hellhound. The mages and priests are all nervous, getting ready to cast support spells. As the front line forms a wall of shields, the beast appears out of nowhere, its terrifying roar echoing through the trees. One of the front line guys, a young dude named Tanabin, pumped up with a fire enchantment buff, charges ahead, his spear glowing with energy. He jabs with all his strength, but the weapon bursts against the creature's tough skin, and he gets swatted aside, landing in a heap. Chaos breaks out as the party's healer, the Saint, shouts that she can't use her heal magic at that moment, making an older priest jump in to cast a greater heal on the downed warrior. The crew realizes their goddess blessings, which should make them stronger, are totally useless. In the middle of the madness, the saint says that with the hero's holy sword, they can still take this beast down. She kicks off a powerful chant, giving a divine blessing to the hero whose sword ignites in a column of holy fire. With a fierce shout, the hero jumps up and strikes the beast's head with the flaming sword, splitting it in half. As the monster's body starts to disintegrate, the saint is called to use her ultimate move, Purify. A dazzling light surrounds the creature, turning it into harmless white powder. Having won the battle, the saint explains that the huge magical cost of the purification made her unable to heal earlier. As the soldiers figure out what to do with the powder, the saint, whose name is revealed to be Louisiana, thinks about her part in all this, feeling overshadowed by the hero's strength and wondering how much she really brings to the team. Back in the cave, the 20 days are finally done. As the sound of waterfalls calms down, Brock gives the MC directions to a nearby village in the city of Elnor, handing him a letter for his son, Kevin. After a heartfelt goodbye, the MC and Shin go through the now open passage behind the waterfall. On the other side, he finds himself on a narrow cliff ledge with a jaw-dropping massive waterfall, the source of which is hidden up in the clouds. As he glances back at the cave entrance, he lets out a loud yo-hoo, a big send-off to the kind old dwarf who saved him. Leaving the cave, the MC finds himself in a forest packed with huge insect monsters, making him blast through swarms of them with light burst spells. One especially pesky caterpillar-like creature chases him down and sprays him with nasty slime, forcing the MC to keep casting Purify on himself while he runs for his life, all while whining that he could have just kept walking instead of stopping to fight. Finally breaking free from the woods, he steps into the sunlight, feeling like a new person after so long underground. Shin, who had been all curled up during the battle, looks like it's loving its first taste of sunlight. The journey keeps going, but not for long, as the MC soon meets another giant caterpillar, this one almost half a meter long. Deciding to give Brock's advice a shot, he chooses not to dodge its hit and just casts a simple light spell. The spell hits as this one nearly 2 feet long. Deciding to take Brock's advice, he figures he won't dodge its attack and instead just casts a basic light spell. The spell connects, so he figures out the creature's just a big old monster that can't handle his magic, and surprise, surprise, the attack doesn't even scratch him. Seeing an opening to show off his spear skills with the new weapon Brock hooked him up with, the dude gets ready to throw down, but then he's like, whoa, an entire bug colony. It's a wild search and destroy mission as he battles through the swarm, finally hitting the main road totally wiped out but ready to celebrate. Following the road, he finally spots the village Brock told him about. When he rolls up to Tanla village, he can't believe how lively it is. With solid buildings that scream dwarf craftsmanship, there's a moat around the village, and he figures it's to keep those giant bugs from crashing the party. Drawn in by the mouth-watering smell of cooked meat, after days of munching on nothing but fungi, he and Shin bounce into a packed tavern. When he asks for a recommendation, the innkeeper beams and offers their village's hot dish, caterpillar steak. But after battling giant caterpillars not long ago, the MC is like, no way, not happening. The only other options are steak soup with toast or some pricey fungus dish. So he jumps on the soup, eager to dodge both his recent enemy and that terrible fungus diet. The waitress, who's basically the local sweetheart, brings him his meal with a mug of fire wine, a local drink trying to imitate a legendary dwarven brew. But as soon as he takes a sip, his face goes green from the super strong stuff burning down his throat after gobbling down his meal. He picks up some supplies and grabs a room at the inn. The next morning, he and Shin set out on the half-day trek to Elnor, still vibing on that delicious soup. When he crests a hill, the sprawling city hits him like whoa. Its well-kept fields showing that there aren't many monsters roaming close by. Entering the city, he's blown away by the advanced infrastructure and all the action happening around him. He pulls out the rough map Brock gave him, realizing navigating this massive place could be a total struggle. He grabs a skewer of street food and asks the vendor for help, who happily shows him on his map where the 3-story trading company building is located. Just as he's about to head out, a lady bumps into him and starts flipping out for not apologizing. Before he can even respond, a loud argument kicks off between her and a trio of tough-looking adventurers who say she's the one who messed up. Things heat up fast as the woman yells for the guys to stop pretending and just throw down. Just when one of the adventurers makes his move, a massive barrel comes flying between them and smashes right down, narrowly missing everyone. A super buff woman with long red hair steps up to the scene, hands on her hips, and shouts at them to chill out in her city, threatening to mess them up and shove them in a barrel if they don't knock it off. The MC just stands there completely stunned, realizing Elnor is even wilder than he thought. He's stuck totally shocked by how fast things went from 0 to 100, thinking he was ready for a fight. But not for Dia, the chaotic city enforcer. The crowd's buzzing since they all know the red-haired woman, with someone commenting that the adventurers who decided to pick a fight with her are in big trouble. The MC feels relieved, knowing not everyone in the city is some superhero fighter, figuring Dia must be an adventurer blessed by the goddess to kick a barrel like that. His mind quickly shifts to the job ahead delivering Brock's letter to Kevin. Brock had mentioned he'd need a guild card to get into Kevin's place. So the MC makes his way to the Adventurers Guild, a scene he's become pretty acquainted with after hitting a few on his travels. Inside the busy guild hall, he walks up to the counter to sign up as a newbie adventurer. He fills out the form, intentionally skipping the attributes section to keep his holy magic under wraps and avoid any unwanted stares. The receptionist, a cute cat-eared beastkin girl, raises an eyebrow at his blank section, noting that normally that's where you'd list your weapon. Another rugged-looking adventurer overhears and tells her to just chill, reminding her that an adventurer's path is their own deal. The MC, holding Shin, quickly throws in that he's got a pet to register, and the receptionist, maybe thinking his only skill is cooking because of the pet processes, his application with no more questions. With his fresh guild card in hand, he checks the map and heads toward the richer part of the city, where the houses are mega fancy and have towering walls. He finally hits a gnarly estate with a dragon statue sitting on the gatepost. Realizing Kevin might actually be some sort of noble, he discovers the gate is wide open, steps in cautiously, and knocks on the main door, which swings open to reveal an absolutely stunning maid with long white bunny ears, surprising him big time. He stutters out that he's there to drop off a letter to Kevin from a dwarf named Brock. The maid's attitude shifts immediately after she hears Brock's name, and she leads him inside. She guides him through the opulent estate, passing guards and staff until they get to a study where she announces him to her master. The dude sitting at the desk, Kevin, is literally a younger clone of Brock, stacked with a solid build and a braided beard. After scanning the letter, he seems to take it as a hint that he should look out for the MC and get him to join their crew. The MC totally didn't see this coming, complaining that he's just a newbie adventurer and knows zero about clans. Kevin coolly breaks it down for him, saying clans are basically groups where adventurers can join forces, share intel and gear, as long as they stick to the clan's vibes and goals. The MC thinks it over, weighing the benefits and drawbacks. He figures that joining a clan might cramp his style a bit, but on the flip side, it could help him out big time with gathering info, which he totally sucks at. Still kinda on the fence about it. He asks what kind of perks he'd get from signing up. Kevin, being cheeky as ever, throws in a line about taking him to see some cute girls, earning a serious side-eye from the bunny-eared maid Mimi. Mimi jumps in with a more serious pitch, explaining that their clan, the Golden Dragon's Claws, is super famous across the kingdom, plus they offer loads of perks like top-tier gear, skilled crafters, and most importantly, a treasure trove of secret info that's off-limits to the public, including the scoop on far-off locations. The MC is shown to his sweet private pad in the Golden Dragon's Claws headquarters, once the crib of a noble. He's blown away by how nice it is, way cleaner and sturdier than any inn he's crashed at. As he lays back on the bed, he can't wrap his head around the fact that he's joined a clan. He thinks about the challenges ahead, especially how he'll keep his holy magic on the down low while diving into clan stuff. But for now, the support and info vibe is reeling him in. The next day, Mimi hooks him up with a dope tour of the huge maze-like headquarters, showing him the conference room gear storage and the mess hall. She breaks it down that the mansion's been upgraded and expanded like a bajillion times over the clan's long history, which is why it's so massive and stacked compared to other clans' bases. Later feeling super tired from the hot weather, so different from the cool cave vibe the MC thinks about cruising around the city. While wandering down a stone corridor, he runs into a girl and a dude in armor. The girl is like, "Hey, you're the new guy," and introduces herself as Dia, the same barrel-kicking enforcer from the other day. The dude introduces himself as Tristan. They welcome him to the crew and say they're down to help if he's got any questions. Taking his shot, the MC asks for a solid equipment shop recommendation, and Dia offers to take him to Uncle How's warehouse. When they roll up a friendly bald dude, Uncle Howell gives them a warm welcome, recognizing Dia and mentioning he caught wind of a new member from Mimi earlier that day. He explains that since the clan's got mad prestige, they need to keep tabs on members to stop fakes from crashing their vibe. After wrapping up his shopping, the MC takes a shortcut through a neighborhood and stumbles upon a smithy he heard about. He brings the smith the dark crystal dagger Brock hooked him up with, asking for some engraving. The smith is all shocked knowing the rare material and pro craftsmanship is totally Brock's style. The MC asks if the weapon can get an attribute added, and the smith is down, saying since he's part of the Golden Dragon's Claws, the price tag's going to be a discount. But even with that, putting an attribute on using a dark magic crystal is still going to cost a steep 10 gold coins. Not wanting to drop so much on an enchantment he might not even use, the MC goes for a simple 1 gold coin engraving. Instead, a call that scores him some side-eye from the other shoppers. Then he heads over to a magic shop run by a quirky old lady named Ulk, a suggestion from Uncle Howell. The shop is super cluttered with a wild mix of magical goods, and the MC spots Granny Ulk at a table twisting a glowing purplish thread that's flowing from her fingers into a green stone. The old lady catches him checking her out and tells him sharply that he's got to pay to look more, but she's taken aback when the MC mentions she figures he's there to snag some magic books, and after spotting his clan, Pin shows him to a secret shelf hidden behind a door. The MC's mind is blown by the selection finding spellbooks he's never even heard of. He takes his time checking each book until he finally finds what he's been searching for: Magic Book on Healing. Granny Ulk throws down her price 7 gold coins, explaining that healing magic books are hard to find since the church snags them all up. When the MC hesitates, she instantly starts haggling the price upwards, forcing him to agree fast before it gets too steep. With his wallet now pretty light, he leaves the shop. Thankful, he saved cash at the blacksmith's and finally scoring a way to use healing magic without exposing his holy vibe. Later that night, back in his room, he's pumped to try out his new spell. Feeling a soft light wrap around his hand as he chants the heal incantation. He's hyped that it actually works, and now he can proudly call himself a healer. The next day, he strolls back to the mess hall. Feeling hella optimistic about this new chapter in his life, he shares with Dia and Uncle how about his win with the totally picky Granny Oak, and they give him major props. Feeling all warm and fuzzy in his new clan, he determines to smash the upcoming aptitude test and celebrate his new vibe by feasting like crazy. At the clan's mess hall, the Magic Book of Heal. Granny Oak drops her price, a hefty 7 gold coins, saying that healing magic books are rare since the church snatches them all up. When the MC hesitates, she starts haggling up fast, and he has to agree before the price skyrockets even more. With his wallet hurting, he bounces from the shop. Pretty glad he saved up at the blacksmith's and now can heal without spilling his holy secrets. That night, he's back in his room totally hyped to try his new spell. A soft glow wraps around his hand as he chants the heal incantation. He's super stoked it works and feels all official, calling himself a healer now. The next day, he bounces back to the mess hall. Riding high on good vibes about his new gig, he tells Dia and Uncle how about scoring that deal with the tough Granny Oak, and they hype him up. Feeling all cozy with his crew and excited for what's next, he swears he'll crush that aptitude test and go all out with food. At the clan's mess hall, the MC catches the lively vibes, peeping at the chill vibes with everyone throwing back shots and rolling dice. He figures out that if you're part of the crew, the set meal's on the house, but extras will hit your wallet. He catches this sassy girl squabbling with the cook over how many skewers she's scarfed down, and the cook's like, yo, remember all leftovers gotta go to the orphanage out back. With nobody he knows around, the MC's about to chow down solo when this super upbeat blonde dude named Cyrus waves him over to join the squad. They clink glasses for fresh starts, and the MC gives a shout out for the tips from yesterday, especially to Uncle Howell, who's got all the connections. They start talking about Shin, and Cyrus is totally curious about this unknown creature. When Cyrus asks about Shin's skills, the MC can only awkwardly say it's mainly cute, which grabs the attention of that feisty girl again. She bolts over, going on about how adorable Shin is, and Cyrus shuts her down, reminding her to chill and not pet someone else's familiar like that, but she just shrugs it off, saying she acts before she thinks. The MC finds out that both Cyrus and Seam are low-key solo adventurers who vibe. A B-rank great boar crashed through a town in the east, wrecking stuff everywhere. The MC's mind is blown that the town with its basic wooden walls survived all that with just a C-rank crew on deck. Cyrus claims it's all thanks to some higher-ranked adventurers hanging around. He casually mentions their clan master, Kevin, is an A-rank beast who could take down that boar solo. The MC's jaw drops at this news, totally failing to connect the desk-bound clan leader to an A-rank powerhouse. Just then, this big, tough warrior stomps over and yells at the MC that a freaking F-rank has no place in the Golden Eagle's claw, and he better bounce before it gets physical. The MC thinks he's pretty tough-skinned now that he's in this wild world. Cyrus spills that the dude is Sabus Kevin's kid, and Brock's grandbaby, a cocky lad who looks down on everyone below him. Seam chimes in saying she's not a fan of Sabi's either. Cyrus reassures the MC not to sweat it, saying rank is just a number, and Kevin sees real strength, which is what counts. Later that night, the MC crashes in bed. Mess around, he sleeps in and misses breakfast, deciding to wait for lunch to save some cash. To pass the time, he checks out the clan library, which is this awesome room with super high ceilings filled with books and cool old wooden tablets. He finds a bestiary and looks up that caterpillar monster he took down, cracking up when he sees it's got this rich, milk-like flavor that's a delicacy in some places. Then he stumbles onto some history stuff and picks up a book called The Chronicles of the Kingdom of Canada era, which throws him off since he thought it was a republic. The book talks about a drama fest after the 14th king kicked the bucket, leading to a three-way battle among some major dukes. The chaos was like a buffet for the neighboring Karam kingdom, which swooped in to invade. To fight off the invaders, the three dukes made nice and founded the Republic of Canada. The MC's all in on this reading, realizing how smart it is to know this kind of historical scoop. He wanders deeper into the library and finds this locked door at the back. When he's wondering what's behind it, a hooded girl with glasses pops up, telling him that area's a no-go for unauthorized peeps. The MC is kind of stunned, but not by the rules, just by the fact that glasses are a thing here. When he asks who he needs to ask to get in, the girl totally knocks him over by revealing that the locked room is actually her personal space. Humiliated, realizing he was low-key trying to break into a girl's room, the MC just bolts out of the library, all blushing and embarrassed. He tries to shake it off by picking up his engraved dagger at the smithy. The smith hand buzzing with his slick new gear, the MC heads just outside the town to give it a spin. Losing track of time, he scrambles back to the clan HQ through the authorized entrance and runs into Mimi, who drops the news that his aptitude test is set for noon the next day. On test day, the MC leaves Shin chillin' in his room with a plate of food, telling the little bean to be good while he's out. As he strolls to the training ground, he mentally runs through his skills for the mock battle light ball, his obsidian dagger, that sweet new heal spell, and his martial arts. Kicking himself for not grabbing a cheap spear, he decides to get down to business with the dagger. He tries to load it up with magic, but ends up leaking energy, taking forever to power up and draining a ton of juice if he keeps it active. He then gives channeling magic into it a shot, but the dagger reacts all weird, zapping his hand with static. He figures out this obsidian only vibes with dark magic. Even his sacred spells don't pack a punch, giving off just a weak holy flame. As he keeps messing around, he realizes he can throw a light spell with his other hand while holding the dagger, but the dagger reacts weirdly. Knowing true skills matter, and Kevin's recognition of the MC's strength is the real deal. Later that night, the MC hits the hay, feeling the weight of the upcoming test. He knows he can't mess around, so he snoozes in too late the next morning and misses breakfast, opting to just chill for lunch instead to save cash. To kill time, he checks out the clan's library, this epic high ceiling, spot loaded with books and wooden tablets. He stumbles on a bestiary and looks up that caterpillar monster he fought, cracking up when he learns its rich milk-like taste is a treat in some places. Then he finds a history section and spots a book called The Chronicles of the Kingdom of Canada Era, which totally confuses him because he thought it was all about republics. The book spills the tea on a succession crisis after the 14th king kicked the bucket, leading to a messy three-way beef between dukes. The neighboring Karam kingdom took advantage and invaded. To fight off the invaders, the dukes teamed up and created the Republic of Canada. The MC, deep in that read, realizes how clutch it is to know this historical and political stuff. He wanders deeper into the library and stumbles upon a locked door at the back. Just as he's wondering what's behind it, a hooded girl with glasses pops up, letting him know that area is off limits for non-authorized peeps. The MC's like, whoa for a sec, not because of the restriction, because weight glasses in this world. He asks whose permission he needs to get in. She drops a bomb saying that the locked room is totally her own space. Blushing like a tomato from realizing he basically tried to sneak into a girl's room, the MC dips from the library, lost in an embarrassing loop of red cheeks. He gets his act together and heads over to snag his engraved dagger from the smithy. The smith hands over the finished piece now with a stunning, transparent blade and is all pumped to have worked on a weapon made by the legendary Brock. Buzzing over his sick new weapon, the MC bounces just outside of town to try it out, losing track of time. He bolts back to the clan HQ through the authorized entrance and meets up with Mimi, who informs him that his aptitude test is scheduled for the next day at noon. The day of the test, the MC leaves Shin chilling in his room with some grub, telling the little buddy to behave while he's out. As he struts to the training ground, he mentally lists his skills for the mock battle light ball, obsidian dagger, his shiny new heal spell, and his martial arts moves. Wishing he'd grabbed a cheap spear, he figures he'll stick with the dagger. He tries to charge it with magic, but finds it leaking energy, taking forever to activate and draining a ton of power. Next, he tries channeling magic into it like he would with his staff. But the dagger acts all weird, zapping him with static. He realizes the obsidian only works with dark magic. Even his holy magic barely does anything, just fizzling out into weak holy fire. Trying more experiments, he figures he can cast a light source spell with his free hand while holding the dagger, but the dagger still reacts strange. It totally drains his magic super fast. He thinks about rocking a staff and dagger combo, but then he's like, nah, that's just asking for a disaster in a fight. As the day wraps up, he speeds back to the clan HQ, finding this sneaky tunnel that takes him to the courtyard garden. He's totally vibing with the sick flower bed when Cyrus shows up. Cyrus gives him a serious heads up not to mess with the flowers, saying Mimi will legit lose it on anyone who crosses her garden. They head over to the training grounds where some adventurers are already throwing down. The MC rolls in just as Mimi is ranting about higher-ranked members being late. She spills the tea that the training and his test got pushed back because their supervisor, an A-rank adventurer named Gold, was MIA from a dungeon. Today's drill is a group battle simulation all about teamwork. Right then, a super buff dude with crazy wild hair and a huge sword swaggers onto the field, announcing it's go time. This guy, yeah, that's Gold. He tells the frontliners to line up and the backliners to fall in behind. First up, they gotta face off against a giant monster, and guess who's playing the monster Gold himself, rolling through the adventurers' front line like it's nothing. As the adventurers buzz with excitement, Mimi tells a shaky MC that this is the real deal with actual weapons and magic. He's freaking out, but she reassures him that there are healers on standby, but then she drops a bomb that in big training drills like this, some peeps just get unlucky. The training kicks off with Gold, acting all monsterish, smashing through the frontliners like they're kids. He totally toys with their weak stances, breaking their formation like it's a joke. While the rear guard is busy throwing support magic like Earth Skin and Wind Slasher attacks, Gold just shrugs it off. The MC is watching from the sidelines, mind blown by how epic this A-ranker is. He's finally getting what Brock said about the mad defensive skills high levels give. Gold can just block rock-shattering spells with one hand without even flinching. The MC realizes that with defenses like that, he doesn't need to hold back on his attacks. After a brutal session, Gold calls for a break, leaving the training ground looking like a battlefield with tired and hurt adventurers. During the break, Gold strolls over to the MC, recognizing him as the kid with the next aptitude test. The MC introduces himself as Rook, and Gold, grinning, tells him the test is super simple. Just try to take him down with everything he's got. Knowing winning straight up is impossible, the MC decides his goal is to at least show the skeptical clan members he's got some skills. He kicks things off with a light ball spell, which Gold totally sees coming. The spell bursts against Gold's hand, but it gets completely canceled out like a pro. Using the smoke from the explosion for cover, the MC closes in and tries a martial arts move, but he's just hitting a wall. Gold gives him some props for his reflexes, but the MC knows he's in a tough spot for a long fight. He flips back, creating space and firing another light ball while in midair to keep Gold on his toes. Gold laughs, saying that the same trick won't work again, easily deflecting the next spell. But yo, that was just a distraction. With Gold's focus on the magic, the MC rushes in again, this time with his obsidian dagger out. He goes for a quick strike, and in a blink the blade is hovering close to Gold's throat, just barely missing, drawing blood. The MC stands firm, the transparent dagger pressed against Gold's throat, and Gold is just shocked. Before he can recover, the MC vanishes and pops up behind him, delivering a quick palm strike to Gold's head. The big guy stumbles forward, spitting blood and crashing down. The MC is thrown back by the impact, coughing up some blood himself from the move. But the whole training ground goes dead silent. Everyone too shocked to say a word. Gold, feeling bad for hitting too hard, accidentally spills that the MC is badly hurt, and Mimi rushes over with a potion. But before anyone can blink, the MC sits up like nothing's wrong, leaving everyone totally shook. Cyrus calls him a freak, and Mimi asks if he's got healing magic. The MC, realizing he can't dodge this, admits he can do some basic healing. A buzz of excitement spreads through the crowd, and soon every injured adventurer from the earlier training is swarming him, desperate for some heals. Gold, impressed, notes that with Rook's combat skills and now revealed healing magic, he'd definitely be C rank, if not for his age. Although he thinks Rook's chill vibe seems kinda sketchy. Mimi asks if he can help the others, and when he says yes, training is pumped up with a dedicated healer in the house. Later, while they're grabbing grub, Cyrus points out that healing magic is super rare, and if Rook had mentioned it sooner, getting him into the clan would have gone way differently. Mimi agrees, saying that even his basic healing looked awesome, and she's been hyping him up, proving Brock's recommendation was on point. Rook's killer aptitude test, Gold, saying sorry for hitting too hard in his counter, accidentally spills the beans that the MC is seriously injured, and Mimi rushes over with a potion. But before anyone can react, the MC sits up looking totally fine, which blows everyone's mind. Cyrus calls him a monster, and Mimi asks if he's got healing magic. The MC, realizing he's got no other way to explain how he bounced back so quick, he admits he can totally heal at a basic level. A buzz of excitement runs through the crowd, and soon all the injured adventurers from earlier training are gathered around him, super hyped to get healed. Gold is totally impressed and says that with the MC's combat skills and now this healing magic, he'd be at least C rank if he wasn't so young, but still thinks the kid's chill vibe feels a bit sketchy. Mimi asks if he can heal everyone else, and when he says yes, the training takes a rad turn with a legit healer on deck. Later, while munching on some food, Cyrus says that healing magic is so rare and precious that if the MC had mentioned it earlier, joining the clan would have been a whole different vibe. Mimi agrees, saying that the way he handled even basic healing was impressive, and she's been singing his praises. Totally backing up Brock's recommendation, the MC's made it through the aptitude test like a pro. After landing a sick hit on that air ranker, the vibes among his crew totally flipped. Now he's getting invites to parties and snagging extra snacks from the mess hall cook. But Cyrus, he's all about checking out the MC's fight moves. He straight up says, even if Gold was holding back, the way he threw that punch was something most folks in the Night Order couldn't match. When asked where he picked that up, the MC just shrugs and says his rents, who he calls like priests or something, schooled him on it. This sparks a whole convo about martial arts styles, with Cyrus dropping knowledge that most adventurers learn on their own, while the fancy Nanka style is only for knights and nobles, and good luck finding its masters. The MC starts thinking if all those goddess blessings are holding back martial arts growth in this world. Just then, Savis rolls up and starts throwing shade, claiming he still ain't down with the rookie. After that whole test, the MC decides to hit up some shops to look for a way to take on top-tier opponents like Gold. He strolls into a weapon shop and spots this rare fire-type spell scroll. The shopkeeper's all like, it's a one-and-done deal from some faraway dungeon, but it costs a ridiculous 10 gold coins. The MC realizes even scams gotta have their limits and passes on it. While wandering the town square, he finds a huge crowd around a bard, belting out a sad love story. As the bard sings about this young girl jumping off a cliff, the MC sees the crowd. Even the usually chill Shin is totally vibing, some even tearing up. When the show wraps, all eyes are snatched by a new scene. People are pointing at the sky, gasping about a gold dragon. The whispers turn into panicked screams as a massive, stunning golden dragon swoops down from the clouds, its shadow casting over the city while roaring like crazy. The MC bails from the city, freaked out by the golden dragon. He slowly makes his way back to the clan HQ and finds Mimi in the hallway, who's super relieved he's not hurt. She tells him the clan's top dogs are chatting with the knights about it, and everyone's got to chill in the dorms for now. The MC finds out it's like mega rare for a dragon to pop up in town since they usually chill in their nests. Mimi clarifies it's not just the dragon causing the ruckus, but also how its strong presence can shake up monster behavior, maybe even causing a stampede. Bored out of his mind, the MC decides to hit the archives and look into the golden dragon, recalling that the recent stampede in Frankfurt was also due to a powerful monster making moves. In the library, he's surprised at how few books there are on dragons. But Lucille, the librarian, points him to a book on Norn's modern history and mentions that Mimi just checked out the other relevant books. While flipping through the chronicle, he stumbles on an entry from the year 118 of the Republic, saying that the golden dragon took off from its nest and flew north. That same year, an adventurer named Brock investigated the nest and scored the golden dragon's claw, the item that gave the clan its name. The MC's mind is blown to see Brock's name in a history book, realizing that old dude was way more than just a hermit poet. The chronicle goes on to say that when the dragon dipped, conflicts among nearby monsters ramped up, but when it came back, the monster population dropped, helping the local industries bounce back. As he chats with Lucille about the dragon's crazy effects, he accidentally brings up her family, leading to a super awkward silence before she bails. Later in the busy mess hall, the MC links up with Lucille, Cyrus, and Seam. Everyone's hype, already planning to hunt down Dragonscale's fangs or even hairs, knowing any of that could turn into big bucks. The MC, feeling a bit tipsy, eventually pieces out from the rowdy crowd to chill in the quiet East Wing. Leaning against a pillar in the moonlight, he catches a glint in the courtyard garden below. When he checks it out, he finds a simple ring. Not knowing who it belongs to, he thinks about giving it to Mimi the next day and heads back to his room. In the middle of the night, he wakes up to see a ghostly maid just chilling at the foot of his bed. His brain's all fuzzy, and his first instinct is to whip out his anti-ghost spell, Purify. He stretches out his hand, but as the light builds up, he sees the ghost's super sad eyes and feels zero threat from her. The ghost bounces and floats through the wall. The next morning, while chatting with Uncle, how about the creepy situation, he suggests reporting it to Mimi. Curious, the MC heads back to the library to dig into ghosts in this world. He learns ghosts can form from strong feelings left by the dead, and that powerful magic users who turn undead like liches can keep their memories. That night, the ghost shows up again. The MC, now calm, asks if she needs something from him. The ghost doesn't reply, but just floats out of the room. Using a magic detection spell, the MC spots her faint outline outside his door and realizes she's waiting for him. Grabbing the ring, he trails the ghostly maid through the halls. She leads him to the courtyard where she vanishes near a gazebo in the East Wing. Using his detection magic again, he finds a hidden spot beneath the gazebo's base. Everyone's high energy pumped up to hunt for Dragonscale's fangs or even hairs, which could fetch a serious cash. The MC, feeling a bit tipsy, decides to peace out from the lively crowd and chill in the quiet East Wing. Leaning against a pillar under the moonlight, he spots a shiny thing in the courtyard garden below. Checking it out, he finds a simple ring. Not sure whose it is, he plans to give it to Mimi the next day and heads back to his room. He wakes up in the middle of the night to a ghostly maid floating at the foot of his bed. His head's a bit foggy. His first instinct is to pull out his powerful anti-ghost spell, Purify. He reaches out his hand, but as the light gathers, he sees the ghost's super sad eyes and feels no harm from her. The ghost floats away, phasing through the wall. The next morning, he tells Uncle, how about the strange sitch, who suggests he should let Mimi know. Interested, the MC heads back to the library to study ghosts in this new world, learning they can be made from strong emotions of the deceased, and powerful magic users who turn undead like liches can keep their memories. That night, the ghost appears again. The MC, calm, now asks if she needs anything from him. The ghost doesn't answer, but just drifts out of the room. Using his magic detection spell, the MC sees her outline outside the door and realizes she's waiting for him. Grabbing the ring, he follows the ghostly maid through the halls. She leads him to the courtyard where she disappears near a gazebo in the East Wing. Using his magic detection again, he finds a hidden spot under the gazebo's base. He spots a loose block and shoves it, uncovering a hidden ladder that leads down to an underground passage. He follows the long tunnel until he hits an iron door, behind which he hears the sound of some underground waterway. The ghost floats there, signaling this ain't their last stop. Then she drifts up through a shaft in the ceiling. The MC climbs up the ladder, pushes aside a heavy stone slab, and pops out into a small, unfamiliar courtyard under the starry night. Thinking about where the ghost has taken him, he realizes he's in the courtyard of a massive 4-story mansion, surrounded by tall trees and walls. Using his detection skills, he notices a bunch of people inside, and even more creeping around outside in the dark. Thinking that it's way too risky to snoop around, especially when he hears footsteps coming, he bolts back through the underground tunnel. The next day, exhausted from the ghostly run-in, He sets out to find the mansion the old-school way. Headed west for about 2 kilometers, he finally arrives at a stunning estate perched on a tall hill, realizing it's the same place from last night. A guard at the gate gives him the lowdown that it's home to some big-shot noble fam. Over lunch with Cyrus and Siam, he finds out it belongs to Duke Sumer, one of the 3 ruling dukes of the Canada Republic. The MC gets hit with a realization that bouncing back was the smart move since the town's on high alert due to dragon-related chaos, flooding the streets with peeps searching for dragon loot. The MC learns that the clan hall used to be the turf of the Sumer family given to the clan by the last duke who was buddies with the previous clan master. Cyrus teases the MC about his connections, mentioning he's already met Mimi, and the MC nearly faints to the crew by the previous duke, who totally knew the old clan master. Cyrus messes with him about his hookup, saying he's already met Mimi, and the MC is like, no way, to find out that she and the fierce barrel-kicking lady Dorita are both maids from the Sumer household. That night, the ghost shows up again. The MC is all set to figure this out. He trails the spirit back to the gazebo in the courtyard where she pauses and seems to stare at the ground before disappearing. He lifts the floor panel and finds a handkerchief with the name Lucille stitched on it. He realizes abruptly that the ghost and the ring he found might be linked to Lucille from the library, but he can't ignore the chance that her dad might have been in the Sumer family. And that's some risky business. He follows the ghost again, this time straight to Duke Sumer's mansion. Relieved she doesn't go inside, he watches as she heads for the back garden and vanishes into a gazebo just like the one in the clan's yard. Inside, he finds another hidden spot, this one holding an old book. Hearing footsteps coming, he quickly grabs the book and makes a run for it. Back in his room, he opens the book to discover it's a diary written by a high-status dude probably linked to the Sumer clan. The diary spills the tea about this guy's secret love affair with a maid named Melina who worked in one of Brock's grand halls. The writer, who already had a wife and a grown son named Alec, kept the diary tucked away in the eastern pavilion to keep it hidden from his wifey. The MC starts to freak over the potential for drama if Melina ever had a kid. The last entry, dated April 2nd in the 235th year of the Republic, mentions that Melina just gave birth to a baby girl they named Lucille. The author is revealed to be Elk Sumer, the previous duke. Unable to chill, the MC dashes to the archives and checks out Alnor's history. He discovers that Duke Elks passed away on April 5th of that same year, just 3 days after Lucille was born, and suddenly it all hits him. The Duke kicked the bucket before he could ever claim his daughter, and Melina, caught up in all that drama, had to bail, leaving her kid's heritage in the shadows. Wrestling with this heavy truth, he wrestles with whether to spill the beans to Lucille or keep this dangerous secret under wraps. He decides he's got to tell her everything. But just as he's stressing over how to break it to her, Lucille pops up, having heard him pacing in the archives all morning. He shows her the diary. After a bit of hesitation, she reads it, and he tells her he thinks her mom can finally chill. She snaps back at him to stop saying her mom's gone, revealing that Melina's alive and kicking, just living the easy life in the countryside after a back injury. Lucille confirms that the details in the diary match her mom and her own birthday, but she denies having the ring or the handkerchief. The MC then lays down the whole story about the ghost of the maid that's been showing up ever since he found the ring and how it led him to the diary. They're totally vibing about this ghost and the ring, and the MC hands over the diary to Lucille, saying it's her story to handle now. Lucille's all in, clutching the diary tight, and realizes it's not even about the gossip that could blow up, but knowing her pops really loved her and her mom. She gives the MC mad props for finding the diary. The next morning, the alert finally gets called off. Cyrus and Seam are buzzing, inviting the MC to join them on a quest for some golden dragon drops, and he's all in, pumped for the next wild ride this weird new world has in store. The MC rolls out with Cyrus and Seam hunting for those golden dragon treasures, but he's blown away to see Lucille decked out in a black cloak waiting for them at the gate. Seema chimes in that they sometimes link up with her when they need extra backup. The MC is like, no way, the quiet bookworm is also a total adventurer. She's all blushy, confirming it's true. Cyrus is totally hyped, vibing off some gossip that a few strands of dragon hair are already out there. While they're strolling, the MC peeps that Lucille seems chill, and she spills the tea. She says she's been vibing and feels like hanging out with the crew today. Outside the city walls, they spot a bunch of adventurers and regular folks like hustling through the fields, all trying to hit the jackpot. But Cyrus isn't buying into the hype, claiming it's super unlikely something would pop up so close to town. Usul jumps in, saying that gear made from big-time monster materials can have some wild effects, and just a few strands of golden dragon hair stitched into armor can really level up your game. The MC, who's only seen gear that looks cool on the outside, realizes that gear that actually boosts his own skills is gonna be a must if he wants to hit it big as an adventurer. The squad decides to head into a nearby forest that's still unsearched. They match the direction from where the dragon was spotted last, but the search turns out to be a total drag. Cyrus is whacking away at the brush with his sword, Lucille's scanning like a hawk, and Seam is just bored out of her mind, flopping down in the grass, whining about how lame this is. The MC thinks about how this grindy stuff is classic in games for snagging XP and loot. To kill some time, they take a break, and Syra dishes out some cheese he scored from a merchant buddy. While they munch, Lucille brings up how the old clan master, Brock, said dragon scales are about the size of a round shield. This lights a bulb in their heads. Instead of wandering aimlessly, maybe they should hit up the dragon's nest. But Lucille and Cyrus immediately shoot that down, saying the place is crawling with hella strong monsters, and the previous master kept the route on the low for a reason, warning that poking the dragon could wipe out a whole nation. After their break, they dive back into the uneventful search. The MC, not wanting to spill his magic location skills in front of everyone, tries to keep it on the down low, whispering his chant. He casually waves his hand like he senses something, only to get a totally chill response from Lucille, which kinda stings. But surprise, his spell actually works, and he spots something shiny up high in a tree. Cyrus, all pumped, tries to scale the massive tree in full armor, but totally eats it. Seam, though, claims it's her time to shine, and swiftly climbs up the trunk like a boss, finally looking like a legit adventurer to the MC. She comes back with a thick, but totally flops. Seam, though, is like, this is my moment, and expertly scales up the trunk, finally looking like a real adventurer in the MC's eyes. She comes back with a chunky, surprisingly soft strand of golden hair roots intact. Lucille confirms it's indeed golden dragon hair, and out of pure curiosity whips out a knife to test its toughness, freaking Cyrus and Seam out. Seam reminds them of that adventurer's superstition that getting too greedy in front of treasure brings bad luck. So they decide to head back with their one little win. While walking back, they realize it's been a monster-free day, speculating it might be some weird side effect of the dragon being MIA. They decide to offer the hair to Duke Sumer, hoping to make some connections and score some prestige, which is way more valuable for newbie adventurers than just cash. Back at the clan hall, Cyrus is down to chat with Kevin and Dorita about setting up a meeting with the Duke, while Lucille takes the hair to study it. The MC, totally wiped from the day's madness and his sleepless night, thinks about crashing before the afterparty and remembers he needs to tell Mimi about the ring. He spots her in the courtyard, and when he shows her the ring he found in her flower bed, her eyes go wide with shock. She spills that it's a super rare and valuable orculum ring. Mimi confirms the ring's made of orculum, which is this crazy rare and precious metal. Anything forged from it is counted as a national treasure, and they've been keeping a catalog of all known artifacts in the region for ages. Since there haven't been any reports of a lost or stolen orculum item, she figures it doesn't belong to any clan member or guest, and tells the MC he can keep it for now, since she can't take it from him. The MC isn't exactly hyped, flashing back to the ghost, and Mimi notices his lack of hype. He tries to dodge the topic, but the ghost memory comes rushing in, and Ghost slips out. When she asks how he's so sure nobody in the guild is secretly hoarding it, she gives him this super creepy answer. She handles everything in the clan herself, and that shuts the MC up real quick about prying. Back in his room, the MC checks out the legendary ring, thinking about what magical stuff it could do. He's all jittery putting it on, half expecting it to be one of those classic cursed item vibes, but nada happens. To see what it can do, he tries casting a simple illuminate spell and feels the magic flow so much smoother. He gives his other spells a shot, finding out that while his holy light spell is only a tad easier to cast, his basic heal spell hits way harder now. He figures the ring boosts the mana and spirit stat, which controls spirit healing and mana flow, and it seems to have a stronger effect on elemental spells than holy ones. This leads him to think that holy magic's power might be linked to the faith stat about religion, which kind of freaks him out because, and it packs way more punch for elemental magic than holy magic does. He starts to think holy magic's strength might be tied to that whole faith stat thing, which kind of messes with his head since he's not trying to deal with any religious vibes. He keeps testing his spells and notices that making holy stones, which used to drain half his mana, now only costs a quarter. Dude's realizing his mana's gone up, and it's been forever since he called his spirit Lies. He quickly throws together some sweet snacks to keep her from sulking too hard. Lies is totally hyped about the goodies and shares them with Shin. When the MC drops a mention of the golden dragon, Lies hits him with a shocker saying, "The dragon's working and ain't about to start fights for no reason." This totally trips the MC out. Right then, Seam barges into his room without even knocking. She spots Lies and freaks out, shouting, "The fairy just talked." The MC is trying to act chill, but Seam's all in, saying she saw this little girl with wings who just waved. Thinking on his feet, the MC blames it all on a prankster ghost messing with his space. The convo gets kind of wild, with the old dude Howl saying it's normal for clan halls to have a few ghosts chillin'. She then drags him off to the afterparty, which is at this fancy but bomb restaurant. At the restaurant, they all raise their glasses to the future. Cyrus is all serious, warning everyone to keep the golden dragon hair on the down low, especially from those clan members who might swoop in to snag it. He spills the tea that their problems are way bigger. With Duke Gresbo in the house, it turns out their dude Duke Shumal is on the hunt for golden dragon stuff, and some of his crew are already lurking in the city. The vibe gets way better when the food lands. They all agree the restaurant's top deer steak is killer, but then they get back to talking about that political mess. Cyrus breaks it down, saying since their clan's tied to the Shumal fam, selling the goods to Duke Gresbo would be a straight-up betrayal. But saying no to a dude like Gresbo could destroy them. The MC's brain starts to wrap around how gnarly the power play is in this place where nobles run wild and regular folks got no way to fight back. And to top it off, they hear whispers about a big shipment of supplies heading to Duke Gresbo's lands way more than normal, sparking total war vibes. They all agree to keep the hair secret until it's locked down safe. The night wraps up with the tipsy Lucille going off about fairies, and Cyrus is just over it.